This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Big Bomber game tonight. It's the Stampede Bowl between the Stamps and Bombers. 8 p.m. Winnipeg time start. We'll head out to Calgary and hook up with Ed Tait to preview tonight's matchup as the Bombers look to get to 4-0 and tied with the Saskatchewan Roughriders at the top of the West Division. And lots of hockey talk today, evaluating what the Jets did and didn't do at the free agent period with Ken Wiebe, and moving on, in all likelihood, without Nikolaj Ehlers, although nothing confirmed yet. Brandon Rewucki jumping on the program a little later on as well. Of course, the big news just after we went off the air yesterday was the Jets dipping their toes into the free agent market and signing veteran forward Gustav Nyquist to a one-year deal with 3.5 AAV on the one-year deal. Gustav Nyquist, of course, who split last year between the Nashville Predators and the Minnesota Wild, just 1 year removed from a career-high 75-point season with the Nashville Predators. He'll come in to fortify the middle six and potentially be one of the players that may fill the gaping hole that's expected in the Jet lineup, with Nikolaj Ehlers likely moving on. As far as Ehlers goes, we're now into day 3. I know the insiders told us we'd know yesterday. They're telling us the same thing today, but as of right now, still no news on where Nikolaj Ehlers is going to end up. We'll be all over that today on the program as well. Listen, welcome to everybody in chat. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. And a shout out to everybody listening on the podcast. We'll get Michael Remis in here and talk about the Nyquist ad and more on the Ehlers situation in just a minute. First, though, I want to thank the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada. Bombers, 3.5-point favorites in the game tonight in Calgary. We'll hit the lines a little later on today. Of course, Princess Auto, Prairie Toyota Dealers, Ben Moss, St. Vital Dental Center, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Rollies Transfer, Aikens Lake, F Apparel, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, and of course the Winnipeg Gold Eyes, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend. We will get to fan feedback for fansfirst.ca and get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Michael Remis, what's going on?
Just sitting here, refreshing my computer, waiting on any Nikolaj Ehlers update, but also I'm really fired up for the Stampede Bowl tonight. Yes. 8 o'clock, Bombers in Calgary, but David Pagnotta, the fourth period, who's been all over the Ehlers news, and it was Chris Johnson who said yesterday that was the day a decision was going to be made. Didn't happen. Thankfully, we can milk this for longer. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. But here's David saying, sounds like today is the day. I'm told Nikolaj Ehlers is expected to make his decision today, and his new team, did you see that part? New team plans on making the announcement. Stay tuned. So then adds, I guess. So it would be nice if Nikolaj Ehlers hopped on a live stream on Instagram or something, just popped out his phone and announced it himself with the donation to the charity of his choice. I think it would be a great way. LeBron James set the template for that, but we will wait and see. And David, we're all wondering who could it be. David adding, Carolina, Washington, and Utah are believed to be 3 teams in the mix as of this morning. Others have poked around. Could it be one of those 3 or a mystery club? We shall see. And nobody really mentioning the Jets, although I think everyone in here holding out hope until he signs on the dotted line and it becomes official. There's a number of users in chat. Tom, he's got his crying towel ready. David Dees says, get the tissues ready. So we'll wait. Hopefully it happens before the show. And if not, hopefully it happens during tomorrow's show.
Well, if you really want to be, hopefully it happens. How about this? Hopefully nothing happens today. And tomorrow, at the end of Jonathan Toews' introductory press conference, the glass breaks a la Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Nikolaj Ehlers walks out with a new deal with the Winnipeg Jets. You imagine? Dare to dream, everybody. It doesn't sound like that is happening. Although, I do feel for Jet fans, Reem. I bumped into a couple last night, and of course, the first thing anyone says to me, what's happening with Ehlers? What are you hearing? And I'm like, listen, we're hearing what everyone else is saying. He's a free agent, dealing with a bunch of teams, going to make a decision. But the longer this goes, I think there is an element of the Winnipeg fan base that is still holding out hope. And listen, I'm not going to tell anybody how to fan or how to feel right now. I mean, I get it. There's a real connection with this player. And until there's pen to paper on a deal with another National Hockey League team, there'll still be hope that maybe something can change, a la Brock Besser in Vancouver. But unfortunately, I don't have anything other than a hope and a prayer on that when we're talking about it right now, because it does seem that the Carolina Hurricanes, we've heard the Tampa Bay Lightning in the mix, the Washington Capitals, and interestingly enough, the Utah Mammoth, as they're now known. We knew Utah had a lot of money. They were looking to make some impact moves. I know I said yesterday my stomach was churning thinking about Ehlers moving on to the Avalanche because we'd have to see him and play him 5 or 6 times. I will say this, I don't think it would be anywhere close to as bad if he did go to Utah, although I think the preference for everyone would be, if he's gone, let it be in the East. Come to Winnipeg once a season. We'll welcome Nick back, thank him for his services, and move on. But Utah would be interesting, and certainly that would mean a lot more Ehlers going up against the Jets next season if that's where he ended up.
Yeah, of the teams that have been rumored, the Central Division ones would hurt the most. Colorado, I think, up there for me. And I do wonder about the holdup here. Is it that he wants to sign with a team that's up against the cap, and they need to clear cap space? We mentioned Washington as a candidate. They don't have enough cap space to sign him. With that team, I see people in chat mentioning Tampa. Well, they're up against it too, and a lot of their players have no trade clauses, so you have to get creative on how to open up space. I think if he was going to sign with Carolina, he would have done it. They have cap space. Why not sign with them? And the Jets, I don't know, they're lurking. Seems like they're off to the side holding a rose. That's not going to be picked, but we can hope here, as the Winnipeg Jets certainly will be a worse team without him. They did sign Gus Nyquist yesterday. I thought it was a nice signing, 1-year deal.
You've always been a bit of a Nyquist guy.
I didn't mention it yesterday. I looked at the things before, and I was like, Gus Nyquist, like, that would be a veteran guy. He had a really good season 2 years ago in Nashville where he was on the top line and wasn't able to replicate. I mean, 28 points last year between Minnesota and Nashville. I would take the over on that. I think the Jets have shown they can bring in guys like that, veteran players, and they can have a pretty good season here, and I'm sure they'll give him a nice role, but there will be some competition for the line 2 spot, the line 3 spot. So with Appleton departing, Ehlers departing, I think Pearson and Nyquist for now looked like the beneficiaries of that and look like the guys who are going to be filling in. But, it's not training camp yet, and there's rumors, around that more moves could come once Ehlers sign. Who Jack Roslovic is a guy that's out there. We'd see P.S. Suter sign late yesterday too to St. Louis on a reasonable contract. And we talked all show. The news is going to come about Ehlers like right after we hit stop, but it was like an hour later that Nyquist's news came up while I was picking my daughter up from daycare. They couldn't have done it they couldn't have announced it an hour earlier, but any news is good news. So we'll sit here and refresh.
And Nyquist, a very serviceable veteran player who, he's got 863 games under his belt. He is 35. I guess he'll be 36 when the season starts. Again, it's a 1-year deal. But what is, I think, important to note, Remo, if you were, looking on the, the optimistic side of what this signing might be able to do for the Winnipeg Jets, with the opportunity, I think, is clearly here, especially with the expected departure of Nikolaj Ehlers. There will be a spot potentially in the top 6 for a player to grab. I think it'll come down to Nino Niederreiter, Nyquist, Alex Iafallo potentially, considering the versatility that he brings. But it is important to note that, for a guy that was basically in and around 50 points, give or take a few, for most of his NHL career with Detroit and with Columbus, the season that he had just 2 years ago, the 23-24 season, was by far the best of his career, with 23 goals and 75 points for the Nashville Predators. So, while last year was disappointing for everybody in Nashville, and of course Gus ended up getting dealt to the Wild at the deadline, he comes to a situation on somewhat of a prove-it deal, trying to, stay in the league and, maybe get, some term on one more contract. Coming into a place where he'll certainly have the opportunity to probably play higher up in the lineup than he might have in some of the other situations in and around the league. And maybe he can scratch the surface and get back closer to what he did 2 years ago, as opposed to a disappointing down year last year, split between two Central Division rivals of the Jets.
Yeah, and you've seen the Jets sign, veterans before. The one that comes to mind, Ole Jokinen, comes to mind. Looking back at the Jets' top free agent signings, in terms of AAV, this one at $3.25 million, certainly up there. With the Paul Stastny one, he signed for 1 year, $3.75 in July 2021. And Perreault was 3 years, $9 million, $3 million AAV as a free agent, July 2014. So there haven't been many, but they have signed players to come here. And one concern, if Ehlers moves, and I think they made this move because they know that he won't be returning, the team speed's certainly going to suffer. Adding in Nyquist, losing Ehlers, Pearson not the fastest either, and Appleton. I mean, he had some speed on the forecheck as well. Was a huge part of that line with Lowry, who's injured, and who I want to say Kopp, but no, Barron or whoever was playing with them. Iafallo, has bounced up and down, so we'll see how they recover from this, team speed issue. I mean, you have Velarde, Perfetti in the top 6. They were one of the slower skaters on NHL Edge stats. And Nyquist, 36 years old. Taves, 37. I think speed could be an issue for this team.
Yeah, and listen, they may have to change the way they play a little bit this year. And it'd be really interesting to hear from Scott Arniel, once the dust settles on all this. Because I do think that, some of that speed could be replaced with some of younger players. Certainly a guy like Brad Lambert has all-world wheels. And I think there'll be a far greater opportunity with a good camp to potentially be in the mix for a player like that, despite a down year last year in the American Hockey League for Brad with the American Hockey League. But, a line, let's just say, especially in the aftermath, in the absence of Adam Lowry to begin the season, that we're talking about a line with Taves, with Cole Perfetti, and one of those candidates for the Ehlers spot on line number 2. It won't be a line that will be driven by the blazing speed and puck control of a Nikolaj Ehlers. It'll be a very different line, and that may change the tactics of the Winnipeg Jets a little bit when they're out. But that is the job of the head coach to game plan and put your team in the best chance to succeed. And you're right. I mean, that line 2 at least probably won't be doing a lot of running and gunning, if you will. But again, maybe some younger players can pop into the lineup, add a little bit of a boost when it comes to speed, provide some offense. But it's going to take everyone to replace an Ehlers. And as I say, that line 2 is going to look significantly different next year, assuming that Ehlers walks. The one constant is going to be Cole Perfetti, who certainly, for the Jets' sake, hope that he's ready for another step forward. And that would be a good thing for Cole going into a contract year at the end of his 2-year RFA deal signed last summer.
Yeah, Cole Perfetti, we saw a big step forward. We saw career years from a number of players, and Perfetti had 50 points in 82 games, and unlike the previous year, 2 years ago, he got stronger as the season went on, and I gave him the award as Game 7 legend in that Game 7 against the St. Louis Blues. So you're banking on him. As far as young players, Brad Lambert didn't have a ton of production with the Manitoba Moose. We'll have to wait and see training camp how those guys are, and we are seeing some young players at development camp. I'm not really counting on them, right away, but hey, if you have a good time in the AHL, some injuries happen, maybe you can come in and make an impact. But the Jets are in an interesting spot here now as we wait on Nikolaj Ehlers' decision.
Yeah, and from what we've heard, from a number of the insiders, this could be. It seems like there's a bit of a waiting game amongst all of the players right now, in on Ehlers to find out where he goes, because there could be some subsequent moves. I know Chris Johnson tweeted out earlier today something to keep an eye on. Once Nikolaj Ehlers makes his free agent decision, there's a sense it could spur trade activity amongst the teams who fall short in their pursuit of the talented winger. And then Shayna Goldman, and this is a very carefully worded tweet, Reem, so listen carefully to this one. The free agent buzz may have quieted down, but sometimes it takes one move to charge up the market. There might be just more waiting in the wings after all, which does suggest that based on what happens with Nikolaj Ehlers, it could be somewhat of a domino effect amongst some player moves. And I guess time will tell whether the Winnipeg Jets are part of that scenario, or whether they're looking internally and obviously with the addition of Nyquist to attempt to move forward without Nikolaj Ehlers.
Yeah, I wonder if Nyquist is it, and if we'll get any clarity from the Jets. And Shayna's with The Athletic, and very carefully worded, charge up the market. Could that be a reference to the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have been one of the outside contenders for Ehlers, waiting in the wings? Are the Red Wings looking to do some moves? They did sign Mason Appleton yesterday, also have Ben Sherrod and Andrew Kopp, so a couple former Jets right now on Detroit. But we are here. I'm refreshing constantly for this Ehlers
Notifications
news.
Are on?
Oh, no, I don't have. Do we have like a power poll on who's going to break it? Give Elliot credit. He had the Nyquist yesterday. Say him. Chris Johnson's been all over it. Darren Dreger, if it's Jets news coming from him. And Frank as well. Has he gone to the cottage yet?
Frank?
Or Frank. Well,
Frank or Frank?
Yeah, well, Frank. But one guy who won't be, Pierre LeBrun. He tweeted out the Orlov contract with San Jose, who made a couple moves today, and then said, I'm done. Last work tweet for the while. So he's not hanging around waiting for Ehlers news, Pierre LeBrun.
Yeah, that is the hilarious thing. I mean, usually after July 1st, everyone turns off their phones and just screws off. And Ehlers is certainly making the assembled hockey media spend a little bit of extra time on the free agent beat. But we do expect some sort of clarity at some point going forward, and we'll see what that means and if there are any subsequent moves. We'll dive into this more with Ken Wiebe a little bit later on in the program, Brandon Rewucki as well. But, of course, tonight is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers' fourth game of the season, looking to go 4-0 in Calgary. Right now, 3.5-point favorites over at Coolbet. We're going to hear from Brady Oliveira and a couple of the Bombers before heading quickly out to Calgary to check in with Ed Tait before getting back to the hockey situation with Kenny Wiebe. Just before we hear from Brady Oliveira, do want to thank our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. They are the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba and have been doing it family-owned and operated for over 60 years here in the Peg. If you have a move coming up, get the white glove treatment that Rolly's is famous for and head on over to the website at rollys.com. Top right corner, you can request an estimate. Use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus for on moving services and moving supplies, and let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to go. The friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they are famous for. For all your moving needs, Make it Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Find out more today at Rollies.com. All smiles over at our friends at St. Patel Dental Center as we get into July. Of course, the kids are out of school, and hey, listen, it's always good to take care of business before getting into school, but, dental appointments probably not on the top of the list, but you can't go without them. So pop by 167 St. Anne's, beautiful new facility, state-of-the-art equipment, a lot of smiling faces on the great staff team there for Dr. Terry and the gang at St. Patel Dental Center, and they're welcoming clients as they've been doing for generations, from 6 months to 99 plus, with everything from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. You can find out more on everything offered at St. Patel Dental Center and make an appointment at stpateldental.ca. Tell them your boys at WST sent you. Big weekend coming up. Beautiful weather. We got the heat warning. You want to cool off? Make sure to check out the new Club Pack brought to you by our friends at Canadian Club at your local Manitoba Liquor Mart right now. Everyone was loving the CC and ginger premixed cocktail last year. Well, they've now added to it. We got CC and ginger. We also have the new Canadian Club Citrus Splash and the very delicious half and half lemonade tea mixture, which will be very popular on the golf course. Pop by your local Manitoba Liquor Marts, get the great taste of the original Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club, and keep your eyes out for the new Club Pack, perfect for a summer weekend. And hey, speaking of those summer weekends, your boat's ready to go, the camper's ready to go, getting out of town, but hold up. Do you have a battery for it? As we get into summer, whether it's your Sea-Doo, your ATV, your camper, your boat, you got to make sure you're charged up, and Manitoba Battery's been doing that. Right here is your local leader for the best prices in batteries of all makes and models for literally everything. It's time to wake up, Winnipeg. Stop wasting time and money and save up to $50-$60 a battery by shopping local at Manitoba Battery. 2 locations, Logan Avenue, and now the new location on Dovercourt Drive in the south end of the city. And hey, best customer service around as well. Give them a call. Order online at manitobabattery.com. Donnie and the gang will be happy to deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy for all your battery needs. Keep it local and get the best prices in town at Manitoba Battery and manitobabattery.com. All right, Bombers Stamps tonight. We'll head out in a few minutes and check in with Ed Tait. Right now, though, let's hear from Brady Oliveira returning to the lineup tonight for the Blue and Gold.
Yeah, jacked up. Good to be get back out there with the guys and finally start competing again. It feels like I haven't had a start to the season yet. Obviously, going in week 1 and only playing a couple plays, 1 series, and then coming out with an injury. So this is like almost my debut to the season, it feels like. So I'm ready to go. I'm excited.
I know you spoke earlier in the week, but just how tough was that? I mean, you're coming off of a big year and then first game of the year and you go down in the first quarter.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Mentally it's definitely frustrating. I know physically I'll respond well and I'll bounce back. Got a great support system in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with Al and Braden and all the staff there when it comes to, getting us back as quick as we can to get healthy and get back into the field. So I knew physically I'd be good. It would just take a little bit of time, but just mentally it's a grind. You want to be out there. It just took some time, but feeling good now.
All right, feeling good and back in the lineup. I think they saw the total, and we'll get into this a little later on, 82.5 yards for Brady Oliveira. He'll certainly be looking at making a big impact returning to the lineup after what was a hell of a start to the first game of the season. Unfortunately, just didn't last too long. Here's a little bit more from Brady on just how he's feeling heading back into his return to the lineup.
I'm ready to go. Yeah, I'm ready to go. I think I play my best football as the game goes on, the more touches I get, so I'm ready to go.
Can you keep up the 24.5 yard per carry average?
That's quite the average. Yeah. I expect that to go down a little bit after this game. Yeah. Wish it would stay the same, but it'll probably go down.
We've not really talked to you. I mean, that was a hell of a run you had in that game. I mean, everything kind of opens up and you'd bounce outside and okay, well, Brady is ready for the first game here.
Yeah, I thought I had a really good training camp. I thought we all had a really good training camp. This team was really firing on all cylinders, and we just had great days of work consecutively throughout training camp. So I knew that it would translate onto the field coming onto week one, and I was feeling really good in myself. Physically, I was feeling really good, and mentally, I was just seeing it. I was on the same page with the O-line, and I just think I'm reaching a new level when it comes to the running back position and how to attack defenses and run the ball efficiently and effectively, and that's exactly what I did. And I think in my 2 carries that I had in that game. So yeah, I'm just excited to get back out there, get hit a few times and continue to elevate my game. And like I said, run the ball effectively and efficiently.
As DT mentioned, a 24.5-yard average. Had that big 43-yard scamper, I guess 6 yards on another carry, and then knocked out of the game. And Remo, I couldn't help but think about Brady watching the fourth quarter of the Elks game. He was watching what the offensive line was doing, the way they exerted their will on the Elks and ran the football and moved the chains in typical Bomber fashion. You knew that he would have wanted to have been out there for that, and I expect a very motivated and hungry number 20 in the backfield tonight for the Bombers.
Yeah, good to see him back in the lineup. The MOP from last year, Paterson filling in well, but it'll be nice to see him behind, the line of scrimmage, carrying the ball. And I wonder how they're going to use him. Will we see more passing plays to Brady? So kind of a first look at him this year after he had the 2 carries for an average of 25 yards.
24 and a half. I mean, I think someone said, I'm not sure, we'll have to fact check this, that was one of or the longest single carry of Brady's career. A heck of a start. It was just a little too short. He's had to sit on the sidelines and watch his understudies get the reps. But tonight, the MOP going to eat in the Bomber backfield. Zach Collaros has had a great start to the season since coming in after Chris Streveler got the season opening win. Huge game last week with 3 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, over 300 yards. Here's Collaros on the challenge tonight going into Calgary to take on the 2-1 Stamps.
I mean, they're playing fast. They haven't given up many touchdowns on defense, obviously. I know there's a lot of new starters there. Bringing Flo in, who I consider one of the top, if not top, defensive ends in our league. I think it's huge for them. Adding Webb there in the secondary and the way they've used him has been cool to watch and study. I thought he was one of the top halfbacks, if not the top halfback in our league when he was in Ottawa. So, Moncrief, his leadership and his experience is huge to have there, like in the linebacking crew. And again, just a group that's playing fast. I don't think they're overcomplicating things for those guys, and it shows.
All right, Zach, on the Stamps will be the opposition tonight. Not only has the passing game been rocking, but the running game's been quite good. But, of course, it's bolstered by the return of Brady Oliveira. Here's Zach on getting his horse in the backfield back in the lineup tonight.
I think as I just said about, losing Adams' leadership, it's, bringing more leadership into the huddle, I think, is huge. The calm effect of that is big. Obviously what he can do with the football in his hands, everybody knows, but, his presence just, screams, while he's out there. Does a great job in pass pro, all those things, but he's a great teammate. And, he's been the most outstanding Canadian, most outstanding player for the last couple of seasons for a reason. So it's huge to have him back.
All right, so there's QB1 looking to lead his team to a 4-0 start and get to even Steven with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who go into the bye with a 4-0 record. Here's the coach, Mike O'Shea, looking forward to seeing Brady Oliveira back in the lineup as well.
Well, he's the best tailback in the league, so obviously he does it all for us. Obviously great in protection too, so there's just a comfort level with the O-line and with Zach. And Matt did a great job for us. Quinn did a good job for us, but Brady's Brady.
What did you see from Brady these past 2 or 3 weeks? He's coming off of a massive year, then the first quarter, first game, gets hurt, obviously not ideal, tough thing for a guy to go through.
Yeah, he just worked at it, worked to get back. Obviously not happy, no one's pleased, but when you're on the training table, you're just generally in a foul mood.
So there's the coach, Mike O'Shea. Now we're going to head out to Calgary and hook up with Ed Tait in just a moment. I should mention just before we bring in Eddie that this segment is brought to you by Ben Moss. Ben Moss is proudly Canadian-owned and operated with history dating back more than 100 years. 3 locations in Winnipeg, Polo Park Shopping Center, St. Vital Center, and Kildonan Place. Committed to customer satisfaction, you can check out a large selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, and mined diamonds available with payment plans to suit your need. For more information, check out benmoss.com. Ben Moss, shine bright. All right, Ken Wiebe coming up for the latest on the Winnipeg Jets, free agency, Nikolaj Ehlers. But first up, let's go to the site of the Stampede Bowl tonight and welcome in Ed Tait from BlueBombers.com. Ed, what's going on? Big one tonight. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Huss. It's going to be fun. The inaugural Stampede Bowl tonight. Give the Stamps a lot of credit for coming up with their own signature game, like the Bombers have the Banjo Bowl, and there's always the Labor Day Classics. But I think more teams need to do this kind of thing, especially early in the season. Now, to be honest, I'm a little surprised it's the Bombers versus Stamps. You'd think that somehow they could schedule it to get Edmonton in here, sort of a Battle of Alberta thing, but we'll take it. Should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether this was something that sort of came up after the schedule was made, and they thought, you know what, let's build up the game around the Stampede and try and make it bigger than it would normally be, and it just happened to be the Bombers. I will tell you, if you're looking to take care of your fans and send them home with a win, you probably pick better teams than the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, especially considering where they're at right now. Hey, listen, before we dive into this game tonight, Ed, just thoughts on the team and how they've looked through 3 games. I mean, the last game I think was a little tighter than the score maybe indicated. But the bottom line is the Bombers have handled all their challenges so far, winning by double digits, covering spreads, and seem to be on a pretty nice early season run in stark contrast to the way the 2024 campaign got going.
Yeah, big time. And you mentioned covering the spreads, which I know is massive to you, Huss. And they're always looking out for that.
Good teams win. Great teams cover,
right.
Ed.
That's a T-shirt for you, Huss, right there. Look, I think it's been pretty impressive, right? Because they won the first game without their starting quarterback, and then the best player in the league goes out on the first series of the first game, and they're without him for a couple of weeks. So, and the other thing that's really cool about this is, look, we know that Zach Claros is a good player and that Dalton Schoen's going to catch a ton of passes, same with Nick Dembski, but some of the young guys have really stepped up. It's been impressive to see, Jamal Parker at safety and Marquise Bridges at the corner. Bonds is having a good start to the season at the other corner. The Mika Vanterpool comes back in the lineup tonight. Carrick Wheatfall, I mean, this is a guy that, basically dressed for 7 games last year, but didn't start a whole lot. So some of those guys are, I think, what's made this 3-0 start look impressive, Huss, is that there's the known commodities, the vets, and then some of these young guys have really stepped up, and it's been impressive.
Well, I mean, listen, just quickly on the defensive side of the football, it's so easy for us to, in the fantasy world we live in, focus in on the quarterbacks and the guys that are getting touchdowns. But I have loved what we've seen from the defense, and really in all aspects of it. I think, the addition of Vaughters has made the defensive line pretty stout. And listen, they might not be getting a ton of sacks, but they're not giving opposition quarterbacks a lot of time to be comfortable. And I got to tell you, there was a bit of a big question as to who is going to replace Ford. How would the defensive secondary look? And Bridges, and especially Bonds, I thought have just been lights out so far. And listen, Ed, when you answered those sort of questions that you had coming into the season so well, so early on, it does give, I think, listen, the standard for this team has been so high. You know what the expectation is? It's to win. It's to be back into the Grey Cup. But it certainly does seem early on this season like a lot of the maybe concerns going into the year have been realized in a very positive fashion for the Bombers early on through 3 games.
Yeah, you're right. And it's in stark contrast to last year, like you said, with 0-4. It's easy to do the hindsight thing, and talking to a bunch of guys through training camp in the first 3 games of this season, the camp was different this year. It was way more attention to detail. There weren't as many guys getting the Veterans Day off, and I think it showed. I mean, they won both preseason games. And some people say that doesn't matter, but in a way it does. And it's those young guys that stepped up too in those preseason games. And then that carried into the regular season. And And to your point about the defense, it's been pretty impressive. Last year they were statistically number one across the board in almost every cool stat. But I think a lot of people got frustrated with them only rushing 3 and dropping a bunch back into coverage. That's just the way defenses are played now in this league and in the NFL a lot too. There's a lot of guys teams that drop a bunch into coverage. But what's been cool about the first 3 games this year is that we're seeing a lot more wrinkles from Jordan Younger's crew, because we're seeing a lot more blitzes and a lot more 4- and 5-man fronts. And I think it's that variety that comes with the comfort a defensive coordinator has with his charges. And I think they've done a really good job of finding the new pieces that fit this defense. You mentioned Vaughters, but some of the younger guys too. And it's given Jordan Younger more ability to throw different looks at quarterbacks. And I think that's why they've been so successful.
Well, and speaking of quarterbacks, I mean, you got VA on the other side. Now, listen, bottom line is this is about winning, and they got the nice 2 wins. They had that weird loss in the terrible conditions to Ottawa. But it does seem like Vernon Adams getting a little bit more comfortable in his new surroundings in red and white. Ed, if you could speak to the defensive challenge that the Bombers have going into this game against a guy in VA that can do it both with his arm and with his legs.
Yeah, probably very similar to what we were saying last week too about,
For sure.
Playing Trey Ford. This is a guy that when he's at his best, I think, when the play is almost breaking down and he can ad-lib or he steps up in the pocket. He's so adept at Vernon Adams Jr. at finding extra time, and then that gives his receivers more time to get open. Talking to Jordan Younger earlier this week, and he said, the key is to all these kind of quarterbacks, the same thing is, don't leave your feet. It's the same as a basketball defender, right? Don't leave your feet on the pump fake. And you got to corral these guys because they're so dangerous when they get outside the pocket and move around. This is an interesting one for Calgary because this is the first game for them against a Western opponent, and I'm not sure what to make of them yet. I think at the beginning of the year, a lot of people would have said, I'm not sure about Calgary, and Vernon Adams is a really neat addition, but how good are they going to be after their disappointing season last year? But are they legit? I don't know. They're 2-1. All against Eastern teams. And then, as you mentioned, they played that game in horrible conditions last week and lost to Ottawa with a backup quarterback. So we're going to get more answers about the Bombers tonight, but maybe we'll get a clearer picture on where Calgary is. Are they this good? Are they a legit contender in the West?
Well, listen, I mean, they certainly are getting the test in the West. I mean, based on the last number of seasons, I mean, you want to challenge or compete for a Grey Cup, you got to deal with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And obviously, the Bombers have had a great start to the season. And as you mentioned, they've done it without a couple of key individuals. I mean, Brady Oliveira had that great start to the season and then was out. I imagine Brady has been pining to get back in. Now, what's it been like being around the club and the star running back this week as he returned to practice and back into game action tonight?
Yeah, so he practiced on Sunday, was the first day back, and he spoke to us afterwards, and you could tell. I mean, they're always the official party line is we won't know if he's in the lineup until the depth chart comes out, right? But you could kind of tell he was ready to rock and roll. And then when we spoke to him yesterday here in Calgary at the team hotel, he's pretty fired up. He's kind of choosing his words carefully, but I think he wants to get back to being the Brady Oliveira that we saw last year. And this is I got to give this guy credit because there was some concern when he got hurt that this could be a multiple week thing. But he's attacked his rehab, and this is a driven guy. Like every athlete has drive, but Brady Oliveira is different in that regard. He's not going to shy away from it either. He wants to be the best in the league. And Michael Shea called him the best running back in the league yesterday. That's not, stretching the truth or anything, but Brady is just driven. And I think we're going to see that tonight because that first game, those 2 runs he had the 6-yard run and then the 43-yard run, and then he got hurt. But I think he wants to just run over people again, which is probably music to Bomber fans' ears.
Well, and of course, when he did leave, it allowed all of us to get a glimpse of Matthew Paterson, who came in around all over the BC Lions. And bottom line on this, Ed, is that we can talk about the running backs. It does start on the offensive line, and the big guys up front. Not only have they done a darn good job of protecting the quarterback, but have been able to establish the run. Although in the last game against Edmonton, credit to the Elks, I mean, it took a little longer to really get to that Bomber level of running the football, but we know when they took over that game in the fourth quarter and sort of squeezed the life out of Edmonton after they came back and tied the game going into the final quarter.
Yeah, I thought the Elks looked pretty good last week. I got to give them credit. In that third quarter, Winnipeg, I don't think, had a first down, and they really bogged down offensively. But to your point, when it mattered in the fourth quarter, I think Matthew Paterson had 65 yards and 57 were in the fourth quarter. And it's just weird how sometimes when this team wants to run and they want to take time off the clock and they want to grind you down and the other team knows it, they're still able to do it. So that offensive line has been really good. And then, again, a change tonight with Mika Vanterpool coming back in at left guard for Gabe Wallace. Vanterpool started the first game, and then when Brady got hurt, they made that switch to get a Canadian there. So they're going with 3 Americans up front. I think this is their best combination, and I don't mean that to be a slight at Gabe Wallace. I think he needed that game, those couple game starts, and he's a massive human being. He's going to be a great player for this team. But this is their best 5 that they're going to line up tonight, and then you've got the best running back in the league behind them. This could be an old school kind of smash mouth game, or because I know Zach Claris likes to air it out, he probably wants to keep doing what he did last week with over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns.
Well, I was just going to bring up the air game, and a big part of it is Jason Hogan. I mean, you've been around on a daily basis. I mean, for a new OC to come in, to have the confidence that he did in week 1 of Chris Streveler, to let him air it out in the fashion that he did while really successfully running the football, and then getting Zach back into the performances that he's had. This offense, if anything, looks like it's taken another step forward as a part of, as far as, trying to figure out the ins and outs of a new coordinator. I mean, through 3 games, I think you have to be really pleased with the way the Bombers have moved the football and been able to capitalize on their chances with 6s instead of 3s.
You're right, and to do it again without Brady for a couple games, without Zach for the first game is impressive. We've seen in this league, across the board, other backups have come in, and some teams have really just struggled to do anything offensively. So credit Chris Streveler for that week 1 win. But Jason Hogan, yeah, it's been impressive. I think he's just getting the feel of this thing too. It's like a guy that slides behind a sports car and is, still grinding the gears a little bit and stalling out once in a while. We saw that in the third quarter last week, but there's good talent here, and I like the variety and the way. I mean, all offensive coordinators will say whatever we can do to win. If we have to win by 1 point, if we have to run the ball 30 times, if we have to throw the ball 30 times. But I like that we've seen some variety in that already from the Bombers on offense, and I really think they're just kind of scratching the surface, to be honest. I think, we're going to see more Dalton Schoen. Nick Dembski's got 4 touchdowns already. He only had 6 last year. Carrick Wheatfall, I mean, he's blown up already. And remember when we were all concerned when the season started about who was going to replace Kenny Lawler, and people were saying it might be Dylan Mitchell, it might be Reggie White, it might be Jared Stearns. Well, it's Carrick Wheatfall, and he's been really impressive. So there's an awful lot to like on that side of the ball, too.
And he just, speaking of Wheatfall, I mean, he's been brilliant so far. I mean, he's made the most of the opportunities that he's been given. He's been dynamic, explosive, getting into the end zone. At what point did it seem like he was the guy? And did the Bombers management, was this part of the plan when Kenny Lawler moved on? Or is this a matter of a guy going in, seizing an opportunity and just simply being better than everyone else and now has a spot in the lineup until further notice?
Well, so a couple of things on that, Huss. Last year in his first start, he went over 100 yards against Ottawa. He had 1 catch for 70-some yards. He got hurt at the end of that game and then went on the practice roster. Took about 6-7 weeks to get healthy again on the practice roster and started at the end of last year. And I'll be honest, when the offseason came and Kenny left and they started to load up on those other veteran CFL free agents like Dylan Mitchell and Reggie White Jr. and Jared Stearns, I kind of forgot about Carrick Wheatfall, and that's on me. And I've mentioned this to him too. But to his credit, he went home. They gave him some things that they wanted him to get better on in the offseason. Worked on his speed. He said he worked on his hands, all that stuff. And he came back to camp this year, and it's that second-year bump. Now he knows the waggle. Now he knows the offense. Now he knows how to read defenses. I think he learned last year from some of those veteran receivers that you got to do the homework. And it's like a different player out there right now. He is so smooth. He is so quick. In a lot of ways, he looks like a young Kenny Lawler to me. He's got that same kind of frame, same kind of hands. this guy's a star. But it's funny that after being so aggressive in free agency to try to replace Kenny Lawler, the guy that ultimately did was already in house, right? And that's part of the management's faith in this guy. Because when you sign those other receivers, you could have easily said to Carey, "We're moving on. We've got with some other guys here that have proven track records," but they let him earn his job in training camp, and boy, did he ever.
Well, and that was one of the big stories in training camp. I mean, we didn't see Dylan Mitchell, who came in, got a signing bonus. They flew him in for the press conference, wasn't even playing with the ones. And I mean, at this point, Ed, with what we've seen so far, it really seems like the only path Dylan Mitchell has in the near future to get into the lineup is misfortune of one of his teammates, because they're pretty much set at these. And I think Stearns in that slot position, while he hasn't seen a ton of balls, has seemingly been very reliable for Zach Collaros. And I mean, everybody else, the way they're performing and putting forth, doesn't seem like they're coming out of the lineup anytime soon.
That's a great point, and that speaks of this team's depth in a way too, because you've got guys like that, and another one, Jonathan Jones, was another big free agent signing in the winter, linebacker from Toronto that a lot of people thought would push Kyrie Wilson out at that weak side linebacker spot, but he hasn't. So when you got a couple guys like that on your practice roster or on your one game injured list, it says something about the depth. Yes, you're right. The path for Dylan Mitchell is probably an injury or to beat out Jareth Stearns, and that hasn't been happening. And Stearns, it seems like he's on the cusp of something here. Maybe he's due for a bust-out game, because I know, like you said, Huss, I think that Zach Collaros trusts him and he knows the offense. And, he had some pretty good numbers in Saskatchewan. And if you look back at his college days, his numbers in college were unbelievable. So there's something there too. And maybe they're just trying to figure out this guy too, and maybe Jason Hogan's got to figure out ways to get him the ball more too, because this guy could be a special player too.
Eddie, while we're talking about the matchup tonight, let's not forget about special teams. And ever since Janarian Grant left town, we've been talking about the return game, how important it is, how the Bombers needed to step it up. And listen, they signed Peyton Logan, who hasn't seen the football field yet, and Trey Vival's had the opportunity. And listen, it's been some positives and tough plays. I mean, I guess the ball control, catching the football, making sure it doesn't hit the carpet, has to be the number one job for him, because when it gets into his hands, he actually has shown a real dynamic nature in the return game. And to be honest, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to take care of the football a little bit better if he sets the bar high that's maybe difficult for somebody to come in when healthy and take the job from him.
Yeah, first, Peyton Logan's not even practicing yet, so that's not a storyline that's on the horizon here at all. I really like Trey and what he's done too, Huss. And if you remember, as dynamic as Janarian was when he started with the Bombers, and I mean, look, he had like 2 touchdowns in his first game, and people know he's probably the greatest kick returner in Blue Bomber history, and it's a shame he left. But he had his troubles too in the first couple of years of putting the ball on the ground, and I think that's what you've got to. Every team in the league is going to have to live with that. If you trust your guy back there, he's going to put it on the carpet once in a while. I think what I like about this guy is that he works so hard at it. I saw him at practice the other day. I mean, they practice kick returns all the time, every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all those days. After practice, he's just throwing the ball up in the air to himself and working on catching and attacking. And that might sound inconsequential, but I think it's important. And this guy, from what I'm told from the coaches, really, really wants to work at his craft. And he spends a lot of time, not just physically, but studying it on tape. And, he wants to know the little nuances about the Canadian game and the rules. And this guy could be good too. And that's another guy that we mentioned, all those young guys stepping up. I forgot to mention him. I'm glad you did, Huss, because with all those young guys on offense and defense, there's some people on special teams too, including him, that are stepping up. And Jalen Smith, the draft pick, Connor Shea, a draft pick, Lane Novak, a draft pick. All those guys are making contributions on special teams too. So, again, this is a pretty deep and pretty talented team.
Eddie, what's the weather looking like for the first ever Stampede Bowl tonight? And I guess what is the case now might be different in an hour, considering the wacky nature of the Calgary weather. But what are we expecting tonight?
Well, that's a good point. I don't know. Yesterday when we got here, it was 30-something. It was a heat warning. And then it's like 15 right now. It's supposed to get into the 20s, but I've covered a lot of games here, Hassan. I'm happy to be in the press box for a lot of them because I'll come in shorts and a golf shirt, and then by the fourth quarter, there's people on the sideline shivering. So I don't know. We'll see. It's supposed to be nice. Let's put it that way. But I was talking to Mark Steven, the radio guy from Calgary here. He said for that last game here, it was actually because of the wind, the 70-kilometer-an-hour winds, and the temperature was like 5, that there was a wind chill warning in June. So that's Calgary.
Well, we got a heat warning here right now. It'll be steamy back at home, but will be interesting to see. And as I say, just wait 5 minutes because it can always change when you're talking about Calgary at any point of the year. Eddie, listen, just before we go, it's been quite the start for not only the Bombers, but the Riders as well. It does seem like there's sort of a gap between the top 2 teams and the rest of the West. And we can already start talking about Labor Day and the Banjo Bowl right now. I mean, it does seem like that series is going to be incredibly consequential when it comes to the all-important bye in the West.
Yeah, I've heard you guys talk about it on your show with Hammer, and I've heard people on TSN talk about, these 2 teams. Wouldn't it be something if they were unbeaten by Labor Day, both unbeaten by Labor Day? And there's a path to that too, of course. But yeah, it does seem like they're the elite teams. BC, it's hard to get a read on because Nathan Rourke's been out for a bit. Edmonton's coming on. I think as you mentioned, we saw that a bit last week. Calgary's a bit of a mystery. But these 2 teams, these 2 rivals, it's going to be fun, man. I mean, tonight's going to be great, but Labor Day Classic's always fun. And if both teams are dominant, man, it's going to be special.
No doubt about it. Well, first things first, the Stamps, and they're going to be seeing a lot of the Stamps. We talked about this crazy schedule. I mean, the back-to-backs against BC right off the bat. Now this is sort of the Calgary period of the schedule. But they do have the bye in between these next 2 games, which is also bizarre, Ed, considering they've already had a bye in week 1 of the season.
Yeah, I don't know how they make the schedule, if it's done by a computer or some guy draws it on a napkin or something.
Coin flipping?
Yeah, that's right. It is a bit bizarre. Zach Collaros was asked about that yesterday because 3 times in the next 5 games, I guess it's Calgary, and there's 2 against Toronto in there. They've already played BC twice, so it's been a weird schedule. And what Collaros said about playing Calgary this much is, it's going to be fun tonight. And then that's when the chess match starts, right? Because both teams, because you played each other, are going to start throwing different wrinkles in there, or they did that to us, so we got to counter with this. And so he said it might get boring watching the film of the same team over and over again. But, I mean, when defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators face each other this often, they can get creative. So maybe there's a chance for this to be really fun for game 2 and 3 with these 2 teams.
Well, and of course, second straight week, the Bombers are taking on an opponent coming off the bye. And but their next visit, when Calgary comes here, it'll be the Bombers coming off the bye. That being said, we'll worry about 60 minutes of football and see if the team can get to 4-0 tonight. Eddie, for people that want more on tonight's game, fill people in on what awaits them at bluebombers.com.
Yeah, we got tons of stuff on the site now to get people ready. And we have our new post-game Boyd Auto Body and Glass post-game rewind where I try to make some stuff up on the spot. It's been tough. I'm not a TV guy, but it's been fun to trot out this new feature, which we post on our social media channels. I don't know. We got a good crew, Huss. I appreciate that every week you give me a chance to fist bump my own content compadres, but we have a good bunch here, and we just like to crank it out. We'll be doing it again tonight too.
Well, I will say this: much like the Bombers on the field have raised the bar, so has the content team. Loved the cinematic recap of the game last weekend. I mean, the stuff that the team is putting out is just phenomenal. And let's face it, it's a lot of fun for Bomber fans to revisit and relive some of these great wins. And hopefully we'll have another one tonight for them to chew on heading into the weekend. Ed, enjoy this one tonight. Travel safe. And thanks as always for doing this. It's great to have you on the program.
Appreciate it. Huss, say hi to Remo for me, and thanks for having me on.
Will do. Bombers Stamps tonight, 8 p.m. in the Stampede Bowl. All right, great stuff with Eddie. 8 o'clock tonight, kickoff, TSN Stampede Bowl, Bombers and the Calgary Stampeders. Listen, we've got some breaking news on the Ehlers situation just before we get to that, and Ken Wiebe jumping in as well. Huge thanks to our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto Stadium, home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Also, a busy week next week at Princess Auto Stadium with the Country Thunder event on the 10th and the big concert, the rock concert involving Def Leppard and more on Tuesday. Of course, Princess Auto, founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg, with 3 locations to serve you: Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and out in Brandon, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. And I have a feeling you might be seeing some discounted Nikolaj Ehlers jerseys on the shelves at Princess Auto as well, considering the news that we are about to get to. Next week, Connor is going to be sitting in, and Remo will be taking over on the program because I'm going to be out at Aikens Lake. I cannot wait to get back up there. Always the highlight of my summer. Now, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge has always had a ton of American business. And as you can imagine, with the tariffs and whatnot, that isn't quite what it has been in the past. So just talking to Pitt before heading out there next week, and he did mention they do have some availability later on this year, later on in July, August, and September. So we've got a little special for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. Hit it up, aikenslake.com. You can holler at them, but a 10% discount for any bookings for the remainder of 2025 at Aikens Lake if you mention Winnipeg Sports Talk. Keep your eyes out on my socials at Hustlerama next week. Certainly be hopefully firing out a few masters and some other great content from Aikens Lake. But right now, moving forward for 2025, WST special, 10% off bookings for the 2025 season. Find out more at aikenslake.com. And hey, shout out to the guys over at F Apparel. Wedding season's here, gang. If you need to up your menswear game, there's only one place to go, and that's 190 Smith Street, where you'll find custom suits starting at just over $400, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, the best selection of menswear accessories. And hey, if you are in a wedding or a wedding party, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about a special discount for the wedding party when the boys get their suits for the big day at F Apparel. It's all waiting for you at 190 Smith Street downtown. And of course, you can also check them out online and make an appointment to come in for a fitting online at F, that's EPHapparel.com. All right, did not want to be doing this today, but Remo, hit the sounder.
We've got breaking news. We've got breaking news.
And the breaking news, as first alluded to by Kevin Weeks and made official by none other than Elliot Friedman, Nikolaj Ehlers, 10 years with the Winnipeg Jets is officially over, and he is signing with the Carolina Hurricanes. Just waiting for more details on the length and the AAV. We're going to talk about it with Ken Wiebe coming up right now. And as Weber joins us, this segment's brought to you by your Prairie Toyota dealers, who want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Quality that means it has the strength to take on any challenge, off-road or hauling a heavy load, and it's backed by the peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. So take the road less traveled in comfort, room for teammates, friends, and gear, and crank that rear power window down so you can let in the fresh air. From $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.39% APR, with $71.99 down. Hybrid options available. Visit shoptoyota.ca. All right, answering the question that I just asked, sounds like it's 6 years at $8.5 million AAV. Let's break it all down with Ken Wiebe of the Winnipeg Free Press, who joins us now on WST. Kenny, the news that most Jet fans did not want to hear apparently is just breaking. Ehlers gone, and soon to be a member officially of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, Huss, great to be with you. I mean, I think that this was the expected result, but the fact that it took a little bit longer kind of brought a few other teams into the mix. But I think one of the first times we ever talked about this, it made the most sense in terms of what we've been hearing for Ehlers, in terms of land of opportunity. You have a perennial Eastern Conference contender here that needed scoring. You have opportunity in the top 6 for sure, if not on the top line. And I do think you will see Nikolaj Ehlers play considerable minutes with Sebastian Aho. Huss, we always play connect the dots. Nikolaj Ehlers knows somebody who is quite familiar with the abilities of Sebastian Aho from a gold medal winning team with Team Finland at the World Junior. So I think that would have always made sense for him. Seth Jarvis, Huss, a guy who we know very well in this market. I think that he probably, may have, if he hasn't made any calls to Ehlers already, he's probably talking to him now about how great the place it is to play. There could for the potential for them to be line mates. Again, they have Svechnikov. I get it. Svechnikov, very good player, capable scorer. His playoff production hasn't been great at times. So adding someone like Ehlers, who's a dynamic player, is a smart move by Eric Tulsky. We know that this is a team that has coveted him at least twice, and if not 3 times, they've tried to trade for him. That they would win the bid is not a big surprise. Huss, the big surprise is the term for me. 6 years is a strange number for a 29-year-old. It's great. Still, there's it's a long-term deal, but if you're going that far, I don't know why you don't go the 7th year. The number, we thought it would be north of 8. Some people thought they might even hit 9. It's possible that he was offered 9 by another team. We don't know that yet. But landing on 8.5 is, it's a good sizable raise from someone who made $6 million in AAV the last 7 years. But he's one of the highest paid players in free agency, so he earned the right to get there, and he is cashing in his chips and going to a team, again, and this whole stuff about, going to a place where it's quieter. I don't know. I never personally got the sense that Ehlers was bothered by the attention at the rink. I don't know if he's bothered off the ice, Huss. I think that the interactions from Ehlers and the people who cover him have been, pretty respectable over the years. He was a very candid person. So at least it never came back to me that he didn't feel he was treated fairly in this market. So I don't think it's a place he had to get away from the media attention per se, but he's going to a place where people love to play. We know this from people around the league. It's a great place. I believe his sister lives in Florida, Huss. It's a pretty short flight from there in the Eastern Conference. And Huss, here's another thing. And again, Jets fans may not want to hear it. As someone whose body has, I would say broken down, but he's had injury issues at various points of his career. Playing in the Eastern Conference is easier on your body as you go into your 30s. So this shouldn't be a big surprise in terms of where he landed. I get it. Some people might say, oh, well, why didn't the Jets bet just a match? Right now, we don't know what the offer was, Huss. I wouldn't be surprised if they were very close in money. If they didn't hit 8.5, I'd be surprised if they weren't in that ballpark. But again, this from the beginning, I think this looks like someone who enjoyed his decade in Winnipeg and was ready to give something else a try. Now grass is greener. We'll find out. But it's hard to blame a player for A, cashing in free agency, and B, going to a place where, they're a perennial contender there. They've put up a banner. So, and they've been trying to put up another one. So I understand why fans will be disappointed. I don't want to hear the retroactive, Jets should have traded Ehlers, because give me a break. If the Jets had traded Ehlers for futures, short of getting someone like Logan Stankoven, Huss, like what Tulsky did at the deadline when he flipped him in the second trade, the Jets were in no position to make themselves worse leading the NHL at the deadline. So I don't want to hear the asset managers screaming from the rooftop saying, oh, keeping Ehlers was dumb, because this is what winning teams do. Winning teams put your chips in, you try to win. It didn't work out for the Jets, but trading him for first-round picks or futures was not the answer, and I don't want to have a retroactive debate about that. But Ehlers gave the Jets a decade. This whole thing about the Jets get nothing for him. The Jets got 10 seasons of Ehlers' services. 8 of those seasons, he was a 20-plus goal scorer, one of the more popular players around. And, people can feel how they want, but I appreciate the interactions. I enjoyed watching the guy play. I think that most people will be wishing him well, even though we understand that some folks will have a hard time getting to that place, or a harder time getting to that place than others.
Yeah, listen, Ken, I'd said this a number of times on the show. I think the Winnipeg Jets were going to pony up and try and keep him here. I said for, a couple months, put the Hellebuck and Scheifele contract on the table.
Right.
And see if that gets it done. And basically that was the exact number minus a year that he ended up signing with Carolina. And I mean, I'm not sure at the end of the day, this is just about money, because I think there was money in a number of places right now. Let me ask you, I mean, why do you think Nikolaj Ehlers decided to leave Winnipeg?
I mean, for the reasons we just talked about. There's no pathway to first line minutes here, Huss. And I know you've been having the debate with other people.
So you think it's about first line? I mean,
well, again, it's not only about that, but it's easier for him to see a pathway to that. And again, the reason why this has taken so long, and I know you talked about it with Marat, Nikolaj would have had to have had conversations with coaches the last couple of days to hear people say that to him. I mean, Scott Arniel used Nikolaj Ehlers well, I think. I mean, could he have had more minutes? Yes, but my pushback in this whole debate about underutilization, check the shifts. The shift numbers are very similar to Kyle Connor. So this whole thing that, Ehlers got the shaft, his minutes are so far down. Nikolaj Ehlers takes the length of shift that most NHL coaches want you to take. Now, could the Jets have found an extra shift or two for him here and there? Sure. But again, also too, Huss, if you've been in one place and you've only gone to the conference final once, you might think it's, you'd want to give it a shot in another place. This isn't, Nikolaj Ehlers didn't suddenly wake up and say he hates Winnipeg. I got to get out of here. That's not the story either for people that might be trying to create that. Two things can be true. You can love the situation that you had while also thinking that you might have something else out there that may work better for you as you head into your 30s. And that's why I mentioned the part about travel. I get it. It's on a chartered plane and everything else. But the facts are Eastern Conference travel is easier than Western Conference travel. So I think that's it's a smart move for somebody who's had some injury history here. So again, we won't know until Nikolaj makes his public appearance and says what he says about what the other reasons are. But what I'm able to deduce from what has happened is what we thought from the beginning. I think he's going to a contender. That's true. I mean, if the people want to check, I mean, Carolina has won more playoff rounds than most teams in the last 5 years. So that box is checked. He's getting paid well. He's getting a raise. He was getting a raise anyway. It's not like Ehlers is going to a bottom feeder, taking the most money. I mean, I don't know if people got to 10 in terms of the offer, but I wouldn't be shocked if he got offered 9 or 9.5 by one of those teams that aren't a contender. So the fact that he took this long means that he was considering his options carefully, and he ultimately decided that change is best for him. Now, it's up to him to show the change is going to be best for him, Huss, right? So he had 10 years of sweat equity in this program with the Winnipeg Jets. It led to a lot of highlight reel moments, good times and bad. I mean, one of the pictures circulating yesterday was Ehlers pulling Scheifele in for that embrace at the end of Game 6. I mean, you don't fake those emotions. So this isn't Ehlers like turning his back on Winnipeg and saying, hey, peace out. Like, he enjoyed himself here. He grew up here. He blossomed here, but he also probably feels, I mean, and you know this, you talk to people like I do. Nikolaj Ehlers is one of the most talented players in the NHL that has not exceeded 29 goals and 64 points. So you can say whatever you want about usage. If you're Nikolaj Ehlers and you're getting paid $8.5 million, you don't have to carry the Hurricanes. But now it's showtime for Ehlers. It's showtime to show I'm a first-line player. I can be a consistent and perennial 30-goal guy, 75 to 80-point guy, because now it's on him, right? The opportunity is going to be there. But the other thing, Huss, too, Carolina doesn't go 25 minutes a game for their forward group. They play 4 lines. They play hard, and their top 6 guys are not taxed in the 23 to 25-minute range for the forward group on a regular basis. So I'm not sure we're going to see Ehlers go from 16 minutes to 23 minutes. I'll be surprised if that happens, but he's going to a place where they need to score goals. He'll be relied upon, and he can be a play driver there. Yes, you've heard it all from everywhere. Yep, they're more of a dump and chase team, but Ehlers will help them become a team that can score off the rush. And we know it. We've seen it. Guy's a one-man zone entry. So that element needs to be incorporated into the Canes game. And we also know this. He's a smart enough defensive player. He's not a liability. He's a guy that plays hard, finishes his checks. I think it's a good fit for him. I mean, again, I think that Winnipeg was a good fit for him also. But this shouldn't surprise people, Huss. And I know a lot of people were holding out hope. Carolina was the front runner from the beginning. He took in the whole picture. and ultimately decided he's going to give that a try. Whether it works out or not, that's up to him.
Listen, from a Jets perspective, and I'm sure a lot of fans are asking this right now, and listen, it's very easy to Monday morning quarterback a lot of things, but that's sort of what we do here. When you look back, Ken, was this avoidable? And at what point did you think sort of like, this might go back a year or two. At what point was the writing on the wall that Ehlers would decide that he would prefer to be elsewhere than a member of the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, that's hard to decipher because, as you mentioned, Nikolaj hasn't really, I don't recall having a conversation where he, showed any of those cards to say he was unhappy with some of that. Yeah, sure. Would anybody like more ice time? Sure. Everybody wants more ice time. Doesn't matter what level you're playing, minor hockey or in the NHL. There's always somebody on the team that wants to play more. I thought that a promotion to the top power play made sense. Davis Payne found a spot where we've been talking all about this for 5 years. Okay, well, Ehlers and Scheifele play the same spot. How come they can't find a way to put them both out there? Well, Davis Payne came in, found a place for him. So, that's not to say that other guys didn't consider it before. Brad Lauer and, other coaches before him, Pascal Vincent, all these guys. But this is the year they had him on the first power play. But that's 1 year out of 10 he was on the first power play. So, again, we talked about recency bias a lot in the last 6 months to a year. Nikolaj Ehlers, I think he has a real good bond with Cole Perfetti. So do I think he considered sticking around to play with Cole Perfetti? Absolutely. But Sebastian Aho is a, more advanced player at this stage of his career. Now, Cole Perfetti may reach that within the next year or two. But ultimately he wants to give something another shot. And, again, we'll listen to Ehlers and see what he says publicly. You'll take him for his word. He's a pretty honest guy, but only he can answer the other things. Again, I don't think this isn't an marriage that is ending badly. But the fact that it's ending will leave some people, feeling those type of emotions. But this is a guy who played incredibly hard, and for a player who's going into the last year of his contract, Nikolaj Ehlers checked all the boxes except staying fully healthy. And he didn't miss a lot of time, but the timing of his injury for the Winnipeg Jets probably couldn't have been worse. Ehlers already had a solid playoff with the 5 goals, But if he doesn't if he doesn't have the collision with the linesman, I think those numbers are even better. And if Ehlers isn't coming back from an injury in the playoffs when in a series where things are pretty rough and tumble, I think he's even more productive as a player. So, if the Jets had gone another round or, potentially gone to the conference final or the final, does it change the way he views it? Maybe, but only he knows that for sure. And again, he can only deal in real time. We're dealing in all the hypotheticals. He dealt with it in real time. He's the only one who knows how close, if close, he was to sticking around.
Do you think, did the Jets try to extend him last offseason?
That I don't know, but I don't think it would have made a difference. Look at the way that Ehlers answered my question at the end of exits last year. That did not sound like a guy who was pumped up in saying, I'd like to sign now. It was a show me year for Ehlers. The Jets showed lots of love. Scott Arniel showed him how much. And one of the first things Scott Arniel said after he was hired was about Nikolaj Ehlers and making him feel more a part of it and finding more minutes for him. So I don't think that was lacking at all. But again, was it too late by that time? I'm not saying that is the case either. But this is just the way it goes sometimes. And I understand it. It's a tough pill for a lot of Jets fans to swallow. I get it. Could this have been avoidable 5 years ago? I don't know. I can't answer that. But again, this is just the way that it is. And now, hey, classic Rick bonus. Now it's about solutions for the Jets, right? They've added some pieces to the puzzle. They're going to look a lot different. They're not going to be as dynamic. They're not going to be as fast without Ehlers. One of explosive player for sure. But the Jets are, they've added some smart pieces in the off season. But this isn't about keeping up with the Joneses. We put up a banner for, we know which teams won the banner last year on July 1st. 2 of them didn't make the playoffs. So now there's work for Kevin Cheveldayoff to do, whether that's off season work or in season work. That remains to be seen. But, the Jets aren't going away. They're not going from first overall to 20th overall because Nikolaj Ehlers is walking. As great of a player and as big as an impact that he made with this team.
Well, I mean, in your opinion, how big of a step back are the Jets in right now as opposed to where they were a week ago?
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, I understand there's a lot of, I don't know what the emotion is. For me, I don't see this as a, fold the franchise scenario. And now I'm exaggerating like many others are.
Yeah.
But they've added some, middle six players, some bottom, fourth line players. That's fine, but they have versatile and capable players already in the system. This is not news, Huss. This is, Ehlers goes out with injury. What happens? Alex Iafallo goes up, or Nino Niederreiter. Now Gustav Nyquist is an option to be used in that middle six. So is Nyquist the 75-point player, or is he the 11-goal guy? If he's the 11-goal guy, there's going to need to be a lot more goals from Cole Perfetti. Gabe Vilardi is going to need to play 82 and then go, get to 35 in order to make up for that offense. But this is a long-winded way of saying it's going to be addition from, not within. The guys coming in are going to have to make up for some of that ground also. But it's not you plug one player in and you replace Ehlers' production. It's going to be a cumulative effort. And again, Taves is part of that. Jonathan Taves, we'll see what level of productivity he's going to have. I think he's going to outperform Vlad Nemestikov's numbers from last year fairly comfortably. But again, that's up to him. And Nemestikov still needs to produce at a similar level, even though his minutes are probably going to be going down a bit from what they were last year. Now, unless he moves to the wing with Lowry when Lowry's back. So again, Morgan Barron is a guy who I think is easily going to provide some additional offense. So on the internal side, he looks like someone to me that could be a comfortable double-digit guy like he was 2 years ago. I think Cole Perfetti is going to be in the mid-20s. Gabe Vilardi could easily go from 28 to 35. And then when you're looking at guys like Tanner Pearson and Cole Koepke, who are double-digit guys, and you look at Nyquist, who's a consistent performer in terms of his productivity, that's where the offense comes back. But again, the reason why the Jets are not going to go into free fall, Huss, is simple. They've been the best defensive team in the NHL in the regular season for the past 2 years. And most of their smart defensive players are still there. And they have the Hart Trophy winner and three-time Vezina Trophy winner between the pipes. So this isn't a sky is falling type of scenario. Now, on the flip side, if some of those pieces aren't as productive as the Jets are expecting them to be, and maybe even if they are, they're probably going to need to add a second line winger at some point before the trade deadline. So, there's two paths going at once. I understand some folks are, been shouting from the rooftops about, what does this mean for Chibrikov and Lambert? And you're putting up these blockades. Guys on 1-year contracts are not blockades. If the young players somehow outperform those guys, there'll be opportunity for those young players. But let's also not forget, Chibrikov hasn't played since January? So he's got a major injuries coming back from. He essentially lost half a season of development time. This doesn't mean the Jets don't think Chibrikov can help them at some point. They're just not ready to hand over the job after he missed that important development time. And Brad Lambert is not out of the mix. If Brad Lambert has an incredible summer like we expect him to have in terms of his training, and if he comes in and blows the doors off, what are the Jets going to need? The players they've added are not as fast as the players going out in terms of Kupari and Ehlers. The guy with the most speed that's here is Lambert. So Lambert shows he's an explosive offensive player and can be responsible enough. They'll find room for him. Braden Yager, great player, still a high-end prospect. But if Kyle Connor, who had 97 points last year, needed a full year in the American Hockey League, it's probably pretty likely Yager will need something similar, if not the same. So I think there's been a lot of debate here and unrest. I get it. The Jets still have a lot of capable players that have a pretty good resume, and they're going to be a good team because this is now the fourth year that they're committed to defense. And this will be the fourth year they actually, or at least the third year, where they plan on defending for 82 games, unlike in the first year when it was looking good probably for 60 games, and then they kind of abandoned the system. They panicked a little bit, if you will. So that's the core. The Jets' core is that they are a defense-first team that can score. So are they going to miss Ehlers on the power play? Absolutely they will.
Oh.
But they have other people who have played on the power play, like Cole Perfetti. If you want 15 more points from Cole Perfetti in the slot in the bumper is a great way to get those points from Cole Perfetti. He's not going to have the zone entries like Ehlers, but he's smart enough to do the things that make him a successful player in that slot. So Nyquist, 2 years removed from playing with Philip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly and having 75 points. Yeah, he's 35 years old. There was quite a bit of drop off. And Huss, I'm sure you saw the same as I did. My feed was filled with some Wild fans who didn't love the acquisition in terms of what happened when he went there, but that maybe just wasn't a fit. There will be opportunity for him here. He's a very smart player that can skate. He's been productive for the majority of his career. He's a guy the Jets have looked at before. So if it was a good idea for him to look those other times, it makes sense that they would look at him again. But again, it's up to him to deliver. No one says he has to deliver 75 points or even match what Ehlers had. But if Nyquist is a 50-plus point guy, that's a really good year for a 35-year-old guy that is playing in your middle six.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I get it. I mean, you're right. They have been a very good defensive team. They're going to need to continue to do that. I just can't get over the fact of how much this is going to impact the power play, and I think people are fooling themselves.
He was only on that power play for 1 year.
Exactly, and it was the number one power play in the National Hockey League, and look what it was before he was there.
Sure, but I would just argue, too, that when Velarde has been there, when he hasn't been hurt, he's also a massive part of that power play. There's a lot of threats.
Have to be.
I'm just saying Ehlers is not the only threat on that power play. I mean, let's not pretend that. I mean, not saying that that's what you're saying either.
No, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's the sum of the parts, Ken. But
for sure.
I mean, for the longest time, he wasn't a part of that group, and they were bottom third the year before. All of a sudden, Ehlers comes on, and they're the number one power play. I don't think that's a coincidence. So I do think that there's a potential for a precipitous drop on the PP, which, to be honest, is a big reason why the team finished first. Like the difference that they made on the power play by adding Ehlers last season was a huge part of the jump up in the standings that they had. And I think we're fooling ourselves if we don't think that there's going to be some significant regression unless somebody takes a big step forward. But the other question, like from the second line, losing Ehlers, and unless Brad Lambert somehow steps up in camp and convinces them that he's ready for a role in the top six with his speed, I do wonder whether that line as a whole just completely changes the way that they play, Ken, because the speed that was such a big part of the attack of that second line was always driven and led by Nikolaj Ehlers, and there's nobody with that club in their bag coming up to take his spot unless somehow Lambert has a huge step forward.
Well, Huss, I mean, we're 2 months removed from talking about how Cole Perfetti took all these steps, and Perfetti's going to add a little bit more to his skating side too. Look at how he rounded out his game last year. And again, Jonathan Toews, it's up to him to help, produce some of that offense also. And he also has done it for a long time, but coming back from something that hasn't really been done before. So I get it. That's going to be something you reserve judgment for, or some people do, but I expect him. He's not, and people saying that the line's going to be slow because Toews is 37. Skating has never been an issue for Jonathan Toews, and it's not going to be at 37. I'm here to tell you that right now. Are they going to be as fast as they were with Ehlers? No, they're not. It's impossible. One of the fastest and most explosive skaters in the league, but there are other ways to get that job done. I mean, who knows? Is Nemestikov going to stay with Perfetti, or is it going to automatically be Toews, right? Could it be Morgan Barron playing center, or is he going to be on the wing? There's lots of question marks around the Jets and where the pieces are going to fit. I'm just here to say that these aren't just scrap heap pieces. And yes, people see a 1-year deal and think, oh, they didn't want that player. Vegas Golden Knights quite like Tanner Pearson, but they decided to keep Riley Smith and Brandon Saad. I mean, Victor Olofsson, a guy we talked about as a potential option because of his skating and shooting ability, Vegas really liked him, but they chose those other two guys, and they're also getting Mitch Marner. So, I mean, two things can again be true, Huss. The same people that have been saying the Jets, I understand that Nikolaj Ehlers exiting the mix was not what people were clamoring for. But for people saying that you can't just throw the same guys out there and expect different results, well, now there are different pieces in those chairs. Now, are they equal parts? I mean, that's up to them to show. And, on paper, oh, well, you got to replace Ehlers' minutes. So, yes, some combination of Ehlers being gone, Appleton being gone, Tanev being gone. I mean, Pearson and Koepke have to outperform Appleton and Tanev. Is that an easy thing to do? No, but lots of people have been saying you got to get rid of those pieces. So you can't have you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth and say you want to have different players here, and then when different players are here, well, not those players. I don't want those players. So let's see how it goes. Today is July 3rd. Let's check back on October 3rd after training camp, see who blows the doors off of people in camp. Maybe somebody steals a job. Maybe somebody impresses you. And again, we've got a lot of time to see where all this comes together. But again, for the folks panicking and pushing the panic button, I would say take a deep breath, see how things transpire. This is not a lottery team that you're looking at. No matter what happens next, and there will be other things to come, because there's a lot of extra pieces on both sides, whether it's up front or on the back end, or the Moose have added some important pieces. Let's see who does what, who can win a job, and see what happens from there. Because Hussey, you were talking about it too. How many of those other players you want? Were you signing Mikael Granlund 3x7 to bring him in here?
No, definitely not.
Okay, so that was one of the alternatives. So now it's about trying to find somebody on the trade market that makes sense for your group. Whether that's now in the next 3 months or sometime before March.
So let's just look at this period in the summer. They've lost Ehlers, which some people say whatever. Some people will say it's a devastating loss. I'm probably more towards the latter.
It's probably somewhere in the middle, let's be honest.
You've added a couple of fourth liners, and you've added Gustav Nyquist. Are they done, or do you think that is basically this is going to be this roster for the most part going in? And, if it doesn't work, then you try and find a way to improve the team during the season.
Yeah, I'm not expecting 4 more trades, Huss, of that, and I know that's not what you're saying, but I think this is very close to what their roster is going to be. Are they counting on Walker Duehr to fill the spot on the second line? Of course not. Could he win a job on the fourth line? Well, that's up to him. He's probably a tweener. He's probably a 12th to 14th forward guy, and then it's see where things shake out. But if the Jets are rolling out Perfetti, let's just say for an example, we'll see if it's Perfetti, Taves, and Nyquist, and the next line is Niederreiter, Barron, and Nemesnikov. I mean, these are pretty good pieces, Huss. These are not blow the doors off you, but these have been productive players. I mean, Iafallo is a guy who also fits in that mix either on the third or the fourth line. So the Jets had tons of depth last year. The depth went a little quiet in the playoffs. That's true. But they also had a bunch of double-digit guys. They've replaced them with double-digit guys, but now you got to see what happens. But I think it's more likely a deal happens in season than before the season, Huss. But again, we don't know what the market is. And if the Pittsburgh Penguins are the only team selling outside of Brian Rust, I mean, Rickard Rakell would make sense too, but he's got a little more trade protection. Outside of those two guys, I don't see other pieces in Pittsburgh potentially filling that 2 right wing role, is how I would put it. And I don't know what the price tag is for those guys, so I can't bang on the table and say, yes, Jets, make those 2 guys Jets or one of them and solve all your problems.
No, don't. Hey, listen, we're going to have Rewucki pop in for more on this in just a minute, but just on the way out, considering the way this has ended, with Ehlers walking, leaving this hole, how much does that crank up the urgency to get something done with Kyle Connor and avoid a similar result 12 months from now?
Well, it was a priority before, and it is a priority now, Huss. I mean, I don't think it's changed one bit. I think the Jets made their best offer, and I don't think this is coming. I don't think there's people slamming glasses in the boardroom. I think that once Ehlers said he was going to market, that's probably, they weren't closed the door completely, we know, but I think they were prepared for this. I think that if you're Kyle Connor and if you're Rich Evans, you knew this was going to be happening. We saw the tweets on July 1st. They're not in any rush to get it done, but that also doesn't mean that they're not open to getting it done. I mean, Kyle Connor the last time missed most of training camp when he got his last deal, but then enjoyed his deal and had a great year. So I do expect that Kyle Connor will, have an extension within whatever amount of time. We still think Lowry will get an extension. So, and we also are expecting deals to be happening for Velarde and Dylan Samberg and Morgan Barron. So, people see this big number, $21 million available. Well, I'm guessing 15-ish to 16 of that money is already spoken for. And then you still have yourself some wiggle room to find that other player, whether it's now or later, is how I would look at it.
Kenny, great stuff. I know you'll have a lot more on this as the Jets move forward post Nikolaj Ehlers in the Winnipeg Free Press. Thanks for doing this, pal, and keep it in the short stuff.
Next week we'll try to get out together, Huss. Thanks for having me. Enjoy the weekend when it arrives, and happy belated Canada Day to all.
Thanks, Kenny. There's Ken Wiebe at Wiebe's World on X and in the Winnipeg Free Press. All right, we're going to continue this with Rewucki. Unfortunately, there might be a sale on Nikolaj Ehlers jerseys actually at Royal Sports or Princess Auto coming up. But I know there's a lot of people fired up for the introduction of Jonathan Toews tomorrow here in Winnipeg. Of course, those 19s are flying off the shelves at Royal Sports right now. Your number one headquarters for all your Jets gear and Blue Bomber gear with tons of exclusives from New Era that you won't find anywhere else. But of course, summer's here right now. Soccer, softball, tennis, tons of bikes, running, and of course that huge Yeti cooler section for all of you campers that you definitely want to check out. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And we will be getting a tent sale coming out after the Labor Day weekend at the end of summer as well. Bomber game tonight, 8 p.m., no better place to get together with the gang to watch the blue and gold than your local Boston Pizza. Brand new summer menu out right now. And of course, those ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, nothing better to go with Blue Bomber football than the great taste of BP. Staying at home, you can order it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's give a big cheers to Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug, before we bring in Brandon.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's bring in Brandon Rewucki from Skates and Plates. Rue, fresh off the wire, Ehlers going to the Carolina Hurricanes. What do you make of the decision? Hold on a sec. We got you muted.
Go ahead.
Decision 2.0. Not surprising, but still disappointing. I mean, whatever you think about the potential of having Ehlers in the fold here for the next several years, and I mean, you could probably make a valid argument for how that contract's going to play out. The Jets are a worse team today than they were at this point last year. Like, I mean, it's inarguable. What he brings to the table. I mean, both 5-on-5 and on the power play. That's, we always talk about what he does 5-on-5, but let's not forget that he was a massive part of one of the best power plays in the NHL over the last several years too. So yeah, it's we all were kind of, obsessing about when the decision would come here. And it sucks because he was an amazing player for the team, a great person. And they're going to have to try and get extremely creative over the next, 7 months or so to try to get this team to be in a similar spot to where they were last year. So it's, we all kind of expected it to happen, but now that it's a finality, I can understand a little bit of hesitation and trepidation about being, buying the President's Cup repeat shirts before the season gets underway.
Yeah, well, listen, we need a team of crisis counselors in the chat right now. I can tell you that. And I mean, listen, it did feel almost inevitable, but with the delay and another day and an extra day, I totally get why Winnipeg Jet fans were holding out hope that maybe, you could see a turn like that took place with Brock Besser in Vancouver of him deciding to stay. But now that we have finality, and I'll say this, I mean, just from a Jet fan perspective, Carolina, great place for him to go, a solid team. We'll see him once. He's in the East. I mean, like the thought of him going to a team like the Avalanche and being back here playing the team 5 or 6 times was nauseating. But this team needs to move forward, and I'm with you. I mean, it is inarguable that this team is so far at this point in the offseason taken a step back. And it doesn't seem. I mean, listen, Ehlers was the belle of the ball for the free agent frenzy, if you want to call it that. I mean, really, he and Brock Besser were the two most impactful players. Besser never really made it to market. He resigns in Vancouver, and there aren't a lot of other options. So, where does the team go from here? I mean, I'm really concerned about what this does to the power play. I mean, that power play was such a big part of the record that they were able to put together. And I mean, that wins you hockey games. Listen, it'll be a great opportunity, presumably, for Cole Perfetti to get more option. And I do think he can be effective. It's just really, really different. But the second line, to me, completely changes because when Ehlers is on that line, he was the driver, gaining possession, really dictating things offensively. And with all due respect to Nino Niederreiter, Alex Iafallo, who I love, Gustav Nyquist, who they just signed, potentially a young player. I mean, if Brad Lambert can come in and really surprise people and earn a spot or at least an opportunity, maybe they can make up some of that. But I do wonder just how much the potential of that second line has dropped or how much it puts on the shoulders of Jonathan Toews, who comes in with a variety of outcomes. I'll just put it. Could be really good, but could potentially have a tough time restarting his career. I'm actually I'm really excited, and I think Toews is going to surprise people, but we can't just assume it's an automatic.
I love the diplomatic variety of outcomes. That's exactly what it is for him and the whole second line. I mean, you might as well just call it the question mark line going into the year. I mean, we don't like everyone's. It's you got to be a little careful, right? Because you don't want to swing too far either way. You don't want to be like, well, Perfetti's going to jump into a 70-point player, and Toews is going to be the guy he was 5 years ago, and Nyquist will bounce back too. But you also don't want to say, Perfetti's going to stagnate, Toews won't be anywhere near effective, and it's a disaster, right? Usually, it will fall somewhere in between there. But having said that, if you look at the contending teams, let's just keep it in the West. I mean. There's no other team that has the question marks the Jets do on their second line right now. So it is concerning, right? Like I feel like the whole offseason right now to me is defined by the word conflicted, because I totally understand Jets fans that are feeling a little bit terrified about where this forward group is at right now going into this upcoming season. But I also, at the same token, I kind of understand what I believe is the Jets' plan here, and that obviously Ehlers was plan A. That didn't pan out. Brock Besser was plan B. They didn't get a chance for that plan to even get off the ground. And so when you're left to your plan C, your tertiary option there, it seems to me like they want to almost just survive the first half of the season and then maybe make a play in season to get a little bit aggressive there, which is really Chevy's MO, right? I know people are saying the offseason isn't totally done just yet, which is true, but he doesn't really do a lot of work in mid-July, early August, right? And so I wonder if that's kind of their play here, where let's not try to force a move that isn't there. And if something happens, great, but we can maybe try to be a little advantageous if the right opportunity presents itself in the early to middle parts of the season. And I do get that. Like, it makes sense to me. It's also very dangerous because you have a much improved St. Louis team. You have a much improved, in theory, Utah team. Minnesota, all those teams nipping at the top three in the Central's heels there. Like, there isn't a ton of margin for error for the Jets or a lot of teams. But it's just, you kind of got to make the best of what you got here. And ultimately, they're going to have to lean on their top dogs once again to carry the mail until some reinforcements come in, or they do get some potentially unforeseen improvements with the internal additions and players that they have with the team right now.
You know, I mean, listen, there were some, I like that word, tertiary moves. I mean, some fourth line ads, and you're mixing out some guys at the bottom of the lineup. I mean, the one guy that in the past has certainly played far ahead of that is Gustav Nyquist. They signed him on a 1-year deal. Listen, I like the deal. I mean, it's 1 year. It's relatively low risk. He is just, 1 year removed from a career-high 75 points, playing in a very impactful role with the Nashville Predators. What are your thoughts on what he brings, and what are the range of outcomes for Nyquist as he comes in with an opportunity potentially to be in that top 6 now that Ehlers is taking his talents to North Carolina?
I mean, realistically, your best case scenario, I think, is you split the difference between this past season and his borderline career year with Nat, because he's not going to play
a career year.
Yeah, like he's not going to play 19 whatever minutes a night he was playing then. I mean, he could have.
Maybe he will. I mean,
yeah,
that's the point.
Hopefully not, but you're right. Maybe at this point he will. I think realistically, if you get 50 points out of him, this is a Grand Slam type of a deal. I don't know if that's going to be super likely here. And it's why, I was kind of talking about this earlier today. Like, you could have brought Ehlers back, and Nyquist then kind of becomes your Mason Appleton replacement. You love your forward core. Like, that's outstanding. Didn't turn out that way. And so now they're kind of going to have to rely on a 36-year-old having a bounce-back season here. And again, not impossible, but if you're going to try to weigh the likelihood of that happening, myself being in that age range, I can understand that it's a little bit unlikely to get back to the guy that you were.
You're so washed, Rewucki.
Yeah, I know. So, I mean, maybe what the Jets are hoping for here, and maybe what you could say is best case scenario is, look, we don't need Gus Nyquist to be a 70-point guy over the course of 82 games. Can you give us a really good version of yourself for 30 to 40 games? And then we can slot you further down the line. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's imperfect, but it's the situation the team has found themselves in here. So again, it's difficult because you would like them to have aimed a little bit higher, but I just don't know if there were any realistic options available for them, right? And maybe the only other one would have been Mangiapane. But again, it's tough for the Jets. Like, even with going up against a cold weather team in Edmonton, if your options are potentially playing with Connor McDavid or suiting up on the second line for the Jets, I can understand with, potential career earnings in mind why you might want to line up beside number 97 there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, they move forward. There's a few names out there that we thought might have, might be some levels of a fit with Winnipeg. But when we saw the Nyquist deal yesterday, I mean, it basically let us know that Ehlers was as good as gone. Not that hadn't been basically reported already. And now there does feel like there is some finality to it all. Just quick thoughts on the free agency overall. I mean, again, this was a very mid-class, if you will, with all due respect to the guys that left. But any big winner or loser in your mind outside of the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with, I guess there's a few things that kind of jump out to me. I mean, it was a perfect storm of the cap going up, 2 new teams in the last several years. I think there's an urgency for most teams to hold on to any top 6 talent that they have, because it is getting more and more scarce across the league. And so you saw limited activity in the free agent market, and then even limited activity within the trade pool as well. And that's also because there's really 2-3 teams that are either rebuilding or trying to lose to some extent. So it was just, I think, the perfect storm to where we saw a pretty lackluster offseason so far. I mean, I think the Kings made some horrific bets. I mean, the one thing the Jets did do good is their bets at least were 1 years. Like, to me, any team that makes a bet on a guy for 1 year, you don't lose that one, right? It's when you get into the 3-4 years where you overpay on term and then you overpay on dollar, especially for depth pieces, right? And I just don't really get what the Kings were looking to achieve with
Ken Holland. We're looking at you.
Yeah. So there's them. But let me give you one that I don't think anybody else is talking about. I think the Chicago Blackhawks are in a really, really dangerous spot right now. And I understand the plan of we'll draft 1 billion kids and we'll build this thing up slowly and we'll play those 19, 20, 21-year-olds and eventually we're going to bear the fruit there. But I just wonder how much more losing this team can take before some of those high-end prospects who have grown up winning 90% of their games are ultimately going to react in a negative manner. I'm not even talking just demanding trades, but like on ice.
Look at Bedard's season last year.
It's exactly it. And I think he's still going to be good enough to overcome that. Like there's some players where ultimately, situation and environment won't derail them too much. But like, what about the secondary pieces behind him where all they do is lose and lose and lose? And at some point you need to insulate your young talent with veterans. And I just think it's okay. It's okay for your team that you want to get younger and better to have 80 points in a season. Like that's okay. Like for them to be where they're at, and they improved off of last year, which is even crazier, right? But to basically add nobody, and they're going to go with a decor that is Connor Murphy, and then 5 early 20 to teenager kids, a forward core that has Foligno and then Ilya Mikheyev as their veterans. Like that is not a conducive environment to developing young talent. And I think it'll kind of go under the wayside because nobody's expecting them to do a whole lot of damage in the standings this year. But I just think there's going to be a lot of damage done to that team internally. And the thought that we'll just continue to draft high and draft our way through this, I think environment and I think culture and things like that matter a lot more than some people would admit. And I just wonder about the potential long-term damage Chicago is doing to what is a talented young core they have there. But like at some point, it's okay to bring in a guy that can put the puck in the net or can defend in his own zone or who can set up one of those youngsters in a prime area.
No, 100%. And I mean, I think it's safe to say, at least from my perspective, that San Jose has almost lapped Chicago when it comes into their rebuild. And listen, they had some money, they spent it, and they should be a lot more competitive because I'm with you. I mean, starting your career, even if you come with the pedigree of a Connor Bedard and just get your ass kicked over and over and over again, it really does take its toll. And I was surprised that Kyle Davidson said that they were going to move away from signing some veterans because they wanted to give all these young guys the chance to play night in and night out. Maybe it'll end up being a beneficial one for them. The guys will get the experience and they'll move forward. But they really stalled last year. The expectations were far greater. And meanwhile, San Jose, I think, has taken that big step forward. I expect them to be significantly better. And listen, I know we talked about the Granlund deal, and it seems like sort of crazy money, $7 million for 3 years. But again, they didn't have the players. They had the money. They moved on from Zegras. It feels like they're moving it forward. And that Chicago situation, I think there's more pressure on Kyle Davidson as well moving forward to get some more results and to try to surround Bedard and a few of these other younger players with some competent NHLers that can make them competitive in games more often than not. And the jury is certainly out on that. Hey, quickly, before we go, what do you think about this football game tonight? 4-0 for the Bombers coming up?
I'm pretty good, Huss.
Me
Feeling
too.
pretty good about this team right now. I'm almost doing it in like hushed tones. Like I don't want to. Let's not put the cart before the horse here, but they're looking pretty mighty right now. I'm not going to make any record proclamations early on here, but let's just continue to set ourselves up nicely for that home West Final playoff date. I think that's the main goal here. Pretty wild. Calgary's 2-1 without a passing TD on the season, right? Like, but I just think I'm loving. I mean, the offense is playing great. I love some of the implementation of youth and speed on the defense. I just think they've been carrying the mail so far. They've been so much fun to watch. And I mean, even having said that, Willie looks rejuvenated. He's just,
oh yeah,
he's going to go down as I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if there's been a better defensive signing in Bombers history than him, but I mean, if not that, one of the best free agent decisions that team has ever made, and one of the best free agent signings in the CFL over the last 25 years.
You think about it. Willie Jefferson, Stanley Bryant, Andrew Harris, 3 of the most impactful free agent signings that we've seen ever in the Canadian Football League. And, I often look at that ring of honor that the Bombers have. They're going to need to build one on the other side, essentially, for all of the names from this era of Blue Bomber football. And one of those guys that'll be on that list is actually on the Calgary Stampeders now at Adam Bighill. Doesn't look like he'll play tonight, but I would be surprised if he wasn't in the lineup as long as he's healthy when these two teams get back at it at Princess Auto Stadium coming up on the 18th of July. Rewucki, I wished we had a more upbeat topic to get to today, but Nikolaj Ehlers off to Carolina, and the Jets move on into the rest of the offseason. Have a great one. We'll look forward to more on this on the next episode of Skates and Plates.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Great talking with you guys again, and we'll chat next week.
Appreciate it. All right, there is Brandon Rewucki. Why not question of the day? And this is just being answered over and over again. Why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray? How are you feeling now that the news is out and Nikolaj Ehlers has officially moved on and taken his talents to the Carolina Hurricanes? Listen, we could basically do 2 hours of fan feedback right now. There is so much activity in the chat. Fan feedback, of course, brought to you by fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no fees, and what you see on the site is what you pay. Bomber tickets, looking at another sellout in a couple weeks. You may need to go to Fans First, and obviously a great spot for selling with great customer service. All right, Remo threw out the poll. How are you feeling about Ehlers signing in Carolina? 44% are heartbroken. I know Phyllis is in there and a number of big Ehlers fans that were dreading this day that has unfortunately come. 44% heartbroken. 32% it was time. 15% don't care. And 7% are furious. So, listen, almost close to 50-50 with dealing with it and just really upset. And I can't say that I'm surprised considering how a popular player Nikolaj Ehlers was during his time here in Winnipeg and, what he meant to this organization. And make no mistake about it, when the schedule comes out in a couple weeks, I believe the 16th is the date that it's scheduled to be released. That Carolina game, which, listen, they've always been a good team, but not really one of those marquee names coming into the building. That'll be a very hot ticket because I know the fans of the Winnipeg Jets will want to give Nikolaj Ehlers a very warm welcome, just considering everything that he meant to this team during his time with the Winnipeg Jets. All right, we're going to get Remo back in here in a minute. Quick Breezy Bend golf update for you. John Deere Classic, and look at that, Doug Gim, the Gim Reaper, with a 9 under par, 62 today. One shot ahead of Max Homa and Austin Eckroat. 7 unders, David Lipsky, Michael Kim, and Sam Stevens right now. Ricky Fowler with a nice start to his tournament, 6 under par. And you got to go a little ways down. Adam Svensson, Svenny, tied for 48th, top Canadian in the field right now. By the way, folks, Manitoba Open is coming to Breezy Bend. And what you're going to want to do is go over and check out ManitobaOpen.com. There still is some sponsorship opportunities, obviously volunteer opportunities as well. But the Pro-Am is coming up on the 21st. Going to be a huge event. It is not cheap. $4,000 for a team, $1,000 a head. But every person in the tourney receives a tailor-made Spider putter valued at around $500. Also includes 18 holes, shared cart, 2 meals at the event, one before and one after the round, unlimited on-course beverages, individual and team prizes, and you'll play with 2 pros, one on the front 9, one on the back 9. And of course, you never know who the next JJ Spawn or Mac Hughes is going to be coming out of the PGA Tour America. So check it out and sign up while space remains at ManitobaOpen.com. tough one for the Fish last night. They spotted Fargo a 5-0 lead. Comeback fell just short. They're back at it tonight, finishing up this homestand, 6:30 down at the ballpark. Beautiful night for some baseball in downtown Winnipeg. Goldeyes.com, 982-base for tickets for tonight. And hey, shout out to our friends at Assiniboia Downs. Went to the track last night with some friends. Had an absolutely amazing night. It was so beautiful out. And to top it all off, I am proud to announce, for the first time in my entire life, I got a piece of a 50-50 win. Yes, we won the 50-50 last night. So shout out to my pals Chow and Dom for encouraging us to get the tickets. And yes, it was a nice win. Couple wins on the track, but the big one was the 50-50 afterwards. So a very, very fun night at ASD. They're off for the rest of the week. Live racing returns next week, Tuesdays and Thursdays throughout the summer with select Monday dates. Check it out, asdowns.com. And I would suggest you try and get a spot in the dining room for that amazing prime rib buffet before all nights of live racing. All right, let's get Remo back in here before we get to the Coolbet lines. Remo, how are you handling the news of the day?
Yeah, I'm kind of sad that it ended this way. It seemed like it didn't have to get to this point. Maybe, I don't know, maybe if there was, some clarity, it didn't come as a surprise. Didn't come as a surprise to me. I think Coolbet had Carolina as the favorite, and I did put a very small wager on
I couldn't
Carolina.
bring myself to do that. I could not bring myself to do that.
I think I enjoyed this tweet here from Dmitry Filipovich, and I think this is why Nikolaj Ehlers ultimately decided to leave and seek out a different situation for himself. You look at his rank over the last 3 seasons in 5-on-5 points per 60 minutes, so that just normal equalizes everyone's ice time when you do it as a rate. 16th in 5-on-5 points per 60, but 199th in 5-on-5 ice time per game. And then in all situations, 26th in points per 60, all situations, and then 194th in all situations, time on ice per game. So Nikolaj Ehlers, producing, when normalized for ice time at a rate that's one of the top players in the league, but getting played like a third liner. So we'll see what happens in Carolina. This website here, oh man, who put out this graphic? Oh, Puckpedia put out this graphic here of potential Hurricanes lines. They had him on the second line, and it's funny. Like, you think, oh, he's trying to get away from the Jets' second-line center. Well, Nemesnikov had more points than Kotkaniemi last year, but I followed Carolina kind of closely last season. They put their lines mixed up all the time. Sometimes it's Jarvis on the top line. Sometimes he's on the third line. Sometimes he's on the third line getting top power play. Sometimes Svechnikov's on the second line. Sometimes he's on the third line. Like, they change their lines so much, unlike the Jets, which were pretty set in stone. So I think they go pretty even with the ice time. I'm curious if he's going to be on power play 1. I'm sure that he will be, but we'll have to wait and see what the lines are. And another thing, the Jets putting out a post and a tribute video. Thank you, Nick. Nice graphic here.
Oh.
This is, get ready for pain. You want pain? First look of Ehlers in a Hurricanes jersey.
Oh, God, not ready for this.
And this is it. Welcome, Nikolaj. I think it makes you kind of sad. I thought it was inevitable, but it seems like certainly a missed opportunity to keep a player that's been here for 10 years. And shout out to TSN Stats Center, and you look at where Nikolaj Ehlers ranks in Winnipeg NHL history. Here he is. What is he? Most career goals with the Jets, Winnipeg NHL franchise. You have Howardchuk, Scheifele, Connor, Steen, Wheeler, McLean, and Ehlers. 225 goals in Winnipeg NHL history. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, 10 years here. A long time. And I agree with Ken. You got 10 years. I mean, you get looking with the benefit of hindsight. You weren't going to trade him at the deadline. I don't think you were going to trade him heading to the season. If you knew that he wasn't going to resign, maybe you did it 2 summers ago. to try to get something. But I think he got 10 years. I don't blame him for wanting to go.
It's one of the great picks. It's one of the great picks in Jets history. And listen, there's the team overall has done a very good job of retaining their top selections and keeping them around. And unfortunately, they weren't able to do it for a second time with Nikolaj Ehlers, who of course did sign that 7-year extension coming out of his ELC. So yeah, it's a bittersweet day, I think, for a lot of Winnipeg Jet fans that were still holding out hope that Nick would stick around. And listen, it certainly adds a pretty big hole in the lineup and more work for Kevin Cheveldayoff to do moving forward to continue to improve this team and take it to the next level after a very, very a solid season. But at the same time, you look back in 10 amazing years from Nick as a Winnipeg Jet and big contributions in the last 2 seasons where the team was 4th and 1st overall respectively. And it was nice to see him make some noise in the playoffs after, we'll say this, the guy has the worst luck of maybe any player in Jet history. You do wonder what some of those numbers, especially playoffs numbers, would look like if you had a little bit better fortune at the end of previous seasons.
Yeah, and look, you look at what the Ryan Hartman cheap shot when he was back checking, like that was a joke, and he was injured for the series. Blocked a shot last year, got injured. And I thought 2018. I know the points were not there, but I thought he was buzzing all over the ice. He's on the positive side of shot attempts. I thought he had a really strong playoffs in 2018, even if the numbers were not there. Scored what? He had a big OT winner in the Edmonton series that no one remembers. Had a big playoffs this year, especially when he got power play one time, and he assisted on one of the most memorable goals in Winnipeg Jets history, 1.0, 2.0, the Perfetti tying goal. It was his pass to Kyle Connor after whiffing on it twice before. The Jets put out a tribute video for him. You have to go to their social media to play it. And Mike McIntyre reports the agent for Nikolaj Ehlers, Andre Rufner, tells me Nick will be reaching out to the fans in Winnipeg in the next couple of days with a message. And Kelly Moore of CJOB gave a shout out to Nikolaj Ehlers for us for timing this announcement right before Ken's appearance. Thank you. Thank you to Andre. We got to send him a fruit basket, case of 1919, like whatever it is. If anyone can get me in touch with Andre Rufner
is not getting a damn thing. I wish Andre Rufner said, you've invested too much in the city of Winnipeg and the Winnipeg Jets, Nick. The grass is not greener. Stick around. It didn't happen that way, but the timing of everything, yes, maybe it did help. Squeezed out a few more hits and views the last couple days. But yes, Kelly Newers, like Nikolaj and his agent were listening for the signing during Winnipeg Sports Talk. Certainly, we'll try and continue to be the place to be when there is Winnipeg Jets breaking news. Just that this wasn't the news that, as much as everyone expected, that Jet fans wanted to hear today.
Yeah, we had a huge bump in viewers. I'm sure we'll have a lot of people tomorrow reaction to the Jonathan Toews press conference. And first time, we're going to hear from Kevin Cheveldayoff and Scott Arniel as well. I'm curious about the questions being asked, so we'll be here for that. But there were some people in chat who were sick of us talking about Nikolaj Ehlers, saying enough, change the topic. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to do here. Like, there's so many different directions. You can talk about him leaving to Carolina. Why it didn't work out here? What could have the Jets done differently? Are the Jets a better team this year? Like, there's so many topics that we touched on the Bombers with Ed, and we played the clips earlier. I'm looking forward to the Stampede Bowl tonight. I'm hoping they show some of Brett Michaels on TV.
Oh, that's right. You're so fired up.
I got my
halftime show.
I'm so fired up. We should have gone.
He tweeted out. He did a tweet. He goes, "Hey, Stampeders fans or whatever, can't wait to get in with the CFL and play some of Poison's greatest hits tonight at McMahon."
Talk dirty. Oh, the Hurricanes bringing it with the tweets. You want to see some more pain? You want pain? Here's Ehlers.
Not really.
27 with Carolina. It feels more real. We knew this was coming, but now that the tweets are out, it feels real, Huss.
There's a lot of players that, could move on. Ehlers was a special one. As someone that, had a season ticket through every one of these 10 seasons, he's a guy that you paid to see. And, listen, he'll be remembered really fondly, wishing him well. Thank God he didn't go to the Avalanche or somewhere in this division. And I'll tell you what, there'll be a big-time standing O for Nick when he joins the Canes and comes here as a visitor next season at some point. Let's get over to the Coolbet lines. You mentioned the Stampede Bowl. We've finally seen a little bit of line movement. And Bombers are now 4-point favorites over the Calgary Stampeders in tonight's game. 8 o'clock start from Calgary. Minus 222 on the money line now. Calgary's plus 180. And the total for the game is 52.
It's minus 4. It was 2.5 when it opened.
2.5?
Wasn't it when it
3.5?
Or was it 3.5? I bet it right away on your advice. So I'm going to hold you to it, Huss.
Nicely done. Well, hey, you got to get out of those early lines.
Wow.
Zach Collaros, over 271.5. Minus 110 on either side. That's his passing total. VA's passing total 295.5. Interesting. A bigger number for VA. Of course, a big part of that is the return of Brady Oliveira. His rushing total over under is 82.5. Dedrick Mills 59.5. Just on Zach Collaros, one play that I do like, Reem, minus 125 on Zach over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I know Calgary has been very good keeping the ball out of the end zone, but they're moving up a couple weight classes against a Bomber offense that was rolling last week against the Stamps. And I think Zach continues his good play. I'm going to be taking over 1.5 passing touchdowns for Zach today. As far as the TD scores, Streveler, minus 167. Brady, minus 110. Dalton Schoen, plus 125. Kirouac-Imagn, plus 130. Nick Dembski coming off a 2-touchdown game last week at plus 175.
Dembski seems low for a guy who caught 2 scores last week. I wouldn't maybe think, okay, well, they got 2 last week. It's someone else's turn. I see BA Split saying Schoen, TD. He certainly...
I like that, BA. I like that.
I do like that. We were on Schoen over last week. I think you could do that as well. I'm curious, how will Zach go? He's not playing Edmonton. It seems like every team who goes up against Edmonton, puts up a lot of yards and a lot of points. They're looking for their first win. But I think either one, Wheatfall, he's really stepped up. You and Ed talked about that earlier in the show. But we'll see, curious about against Calgary coming off a bye. They're the home dogs. Bombers 4-point favorite.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was doing the lock shop and the Play Alberta line was 5.5. So certainly Coolbet's got a nice number on the Bombers, even though it's moved up 0.5. And I'll tell you what, if you jumped on with myself and Hammer yesterday on the CFL 110 parlay, good for you. When I bet this, we got it at more than 8-1. And with line movement in Winnipeg and in the Hamilton game, it's now plus 580 after the boost. You'll still get Bombers minus 3.5, Ticats to win, and Elks to win. Yesterday, the Ticats were a pick'em with the Argos. They're now minus 179 on the money line and a full 3-point road favorites as the Chad Kelly-less Argos host Bo Levi Mitchell. And the Ticats, 2-point favorites are the Ottawa Redblacks against Edmonton. I do like Edmonton. So if you like Edmonton and Hamilton to win and the Bombers to cover, you can still get that boost from plus 510 to plus 580. Jays in a position to potentially sweep the Yankees tonight, Reem. Plus 110 as a home dog again. And can you believe that? The Jays with a win could take over sole possession of first place. They go into tonight's action tied for the AL East lead with the Yankees after winning 3 straight at home.
Yeah, the Blue Jays have certainly caught my eye with where they are in the standings right now. And, big win. Yankees trying to come back yesterday, and the Blue Jays were able to hold them off and get the win. Tied with the Yankees for the division. Never thought we would be here. Thought it was going to be a really bad season for the Jays. Not a lot of optimism heading in, but I think the Guerrero signing to start the season, gave them a bit of a spark. You thought you're going to have that question mark. He was putting out tweets of him, talking about liking other teams' jerseys or there's something going on there, and you didn't think it was possible, but they locked him up. And I think that once that happened, the future for the Blue Jays started looking bright. They've had good pitching for the last couple of years, so it's exciting. I turned on the Blue Jays yesterday. I hadn't really thought about them. Like, they're playing the Yankees, always a big one. Now they're higher for the division, and I mean the division in the East, it's about as bad as it's been in a while. Like the Rays, they're not great. Boston, they're trading away star players like Rafael Devers. Baltimore, extremely disappointing. So the East is certainly there. You have the double wild card spot, so they're in the mix for that too. I don't is the Central that great either? So not a lot of great teams. And credit to the Blue Jays, they are trying to put together a winner. And unfortunately, in baseball, some teams are not, and there's a lot of teams having disappointing seasons. I mean, the Rangers, people are saying investigate their World Series win a couple years ago because they haven't even come close to that. So we could have a Blue Jays playoffs, which could they get their first playoff win? I'm looking for right under the Shapiro Atkins era, first playoff series win. It's been about 10 years.
Hey, let's make it first. Make it first. But hey, it's a lot of fun following the Jays right now. And now with the playoffs and the NBA and the National Hockey League over, we got CFL until NFL starts, and we got Major League Baseball, and the Jays are in first place. A couple of special combo cards today. We're back with the Fins and Feathers. Almost got it last night. Gold Eyes fell just short. Gold Eyes are a minus 143 favorite tonight. Boosted from plus 257 to 296. So if you like the Jays to win and the Gold Eyes to win, you can get that at just under 3-1. And how about this, the Win City Special? The Gold Eyes to beat Fargo and the Bombers to beat Calgary. That's boosted to plus 181.
All right.
I don't mind that at all. House callers tonight, PJ Walker, Brady Oliveira, and Strevler. Plus 588 with the boost from plus 511. So all is that there. The super boost tonight is Bassett over 4.5 strikeouts and George Springer to get a hit. Plus 153. Now listen, as disappointed as many of you are, sort of a sad day here on WST, we finish it up with something that certainly is going to bring a smile to my face and hopefully yours. Tomorrow's Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest. That's right, the GOAT, Joey Chestnut, is back after being banned last year for a sponsorship deal with a vegan hot dog company. He returns to Coney Island looking to extend his record of mustard belts in the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest. He is a minus 2,500 favorite to win the event. Although finally, they've realized that the real betting action is the men's competition without Joey Chestnut. Patrick Deep Dish Bertholetti is your favorite without Chestnut at minus 175. James Webb at plus 350 and Jeffrey Esper at plus 375. Chestnut's total hot dogs and buns eaten 71.5. We jumped on the over yesterday at plus 105. I think we moved the line. It's now minus 115 on either side for the total hot dogs eaten. And how about this, Remis? Will we see greatness tomorrow? Will we see Joey Chestnut beating his own record of 76 hot dogs and buns? If you think yes, plus 375 on a record-breaking performance of hot dogs and buns for Joey Chestnut. 11 a.m. tomorrow, Winnipeg time. It will go down on Coney Island and, of course, Coolbet all over the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest lines.
11 a.m. Is that our time, like noon Eastern?
Yeah, high noon.
You have the weather for that? How are the dogs going to be flying?
That's a great question right now. Coney Island weather.
It is a factor. We've seen some rains. Ooh, thunderstorm watch us right now.
So it looks tomorrow 28 and sunny.
Oh, it's good. That's good dog weather.
That is actually great eating conditions. So I mean, hopefully, they get the rain out tonight. nice, sunny, dry conditions, fast buns, and hopefully another world record for Joey Chestnut. Coolbet.com. By the way, anyone that's been playing poker over at Coolbet, there are 2 qualifiers tonight for the Coolbet Open in Estonia. And I'm just going to get this text from Patty here. There are, tonight. So I think there's an early one, the Eastern final, and then 9 p.m. is the Western final. So good luck to anyone that's jumping in on that to try and get a spot. Top 2 finishers move on to the final for that trip to Estonia in August to play and represent Canada in the Coolbet Open. Reem, we knew it was coming. I guess they were considerate of us to have this news break while we were live on the air, but still a melancholy day for Winnipeg Jet fans knowing that one of their favorites is gone after 10 years with the club.
Yeah, you don't know how you're going to feel till it hits. We figured this was going to happen, and definitely some feelings of disappointment, and we did the poll. What was there? Frustration or sadness, heartbreak? There's a lot, but we're going to move on. Jonathan Toews being announced tomorrow, and I think the Jets will still be a pretty good team. They're going to compete for a playoff spot again. I don't know about President's Trophy. Everything seemed to break right for them last year. You know, we'll know more. You know, team could be some more moves. We'll see what Chevy says about that tomorrow. But still excited for the season. We got the schedule release. Possible RFA contracts to Velarde. Well, we're going to have contracts to Velarde and Samberg, but a possible extension to Kyle Connor. Waiting on. I wonder what's going to happen with Perfetti. Probably next year when he's still in RFA.
You know what? The other guy that we haven't talked a lot about, that I'm really intrigued as to what his deal is going to look like, is Morgan Barron. I think we were just scratching the surface of Barron, when he moved to center last year. And I would love to see, Barron get a raise, but, get a 3 or a 4 year deal and have him be a key part moving forward because, obviously Adam Lowry is not getting any younger. He's had hip surgery right now. He'll be a big part of the mix, but I do think Barron has another level that we saw glimpses of, and I would love to see him signed long-term, and obviously they'll be looking to do similar, probably as long as possible for Dylan Samberg and Gabriel Velarde. Tomorrow, we'll get going right at 1, maybe even a couple minutes earlier, because the Jonathan Toews introductory press conference is going to be happening right around the start of the show. We will try to bring that to you live here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Hear from Kevin Cheveldayoff as well tomorrow afternoon. So a lot of reaction to everything that's happened over the last few days. Ehlers leaving, Toews coming, homecoming press conference tomorrow for JT. We'll have it for you here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. And, of course, a full wrap-up of the Stampede Bowl tonight between the Bombers and the Calgary Stampeders. Thanks to everyone that joined us today. Great stuff in the chat. I was feeling it with many of you Jet fans. It's a disappointing day, but certainly wishing nothing but good things for Nikolaj Ehlers in the future after everything he did here for the Jets in the city of Winnipeg. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with the introduction of Jonathan Toews and much more right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, live at 1 p.m. with the festivities from Canada Life Centre tomorrow. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Go Blue. We'll see you tomorrow for a big Friday show here on WST.
Oh, my God! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.